Ah! The woman was baffled, never having had someone joke like this to her. It was only once the carriage drove off that she realized Long Chun was just joking. I want to see your guild leader here. Of course, I know that your guild leader is very busy and can't just randomly come out to see some sage king, especially one who looks as poor as I do. Please just show this to someone knowledgeable. I have a business proposal to discuss with him about this, said Long Chun as he handed a refined case to the woman. The woman curiously received it. She was very experienced but had never seen someone like Long Chun. He was young and didn't have anything flashy on him. While he was only a sage king, he exuded the presence of a great leader. She was unable to figure out who he really was. Long Chun seemed to have seen through her thoughts, and his words made it so that she could only act according to his instructions. There was no other choice. All right, then please wait in our hall for a moment. Have some tea. The attendant courteously brought them into the hall, where maids were specifically in charge of pouring tea. The attendant then bid them farewell and left with the case. It wasn't long before she returned, practically running. Accompanying her was a scholarly elder. Long Chun was startled to see him because although his aura wasn't very strong, he was actually an 8-vein human emperor. Long Chun slowly rose. Based on this elder's bearing, he should be the guild leader here. I'm very sorry to have kept you two waiting. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the humble guild leader of this place, Li Shuangwen, the elder said, bowing slightly. She was shocked. Given how large the Huayun Trading Company was, she couldn't believe that simply because Long Chun asked to see the guild leader would actually come in person. This junior is Long Chun, and this is my junior sister, Qing Shi. Greetings, guild leader. Long Chun cupped his fists in return. Qing Shi hastily followed suit. An 8-vein human emperor was considered a big figure in the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Usually, she wouldn't be qualified to meet such a person. If you don't mind, please come inside with me, said Li Shuangwen, gesturing for them to come with him. My junior sister is a bit shy. Can you find her a place to rest? I'll discuss the other matters with you, said Long Chun. All right. Huiying, please bring junior sister Qing Shi somewhere to rest, Li Shuangwen instructed the attendant. Qing Shi looked at Long Chun nervously. However, he smiled comfortingly, and only then did she leave with the attendant. After that, Li Shuangwen brought Long Chun to a private room, where the case was placed on the table. It was what was inside that had made the guild leader personally meet with Long Chun. After sitting down, Long Chun got straight to the point. I have a very close relationship with the Huayun Trading Company. In the mortal world, I benefited greatly from your assistance, and after ascending to the immortal world, I also received your support. I have just come from beyond the desolation, and I didn't expect to encounter you again here. I wish to ask about one of your people. His name is Zhang Wenlong. You came from beyond the desolation? As in, you crossed the devil domain wasteland? Li Shuangwen asked, shocked. Beyond the desolation was a specific phrase. Within the heaven essence world, there were many experts who came from other heavens. They passed through various channels to arrive here, which was nothing special. Qing Shi had done just that. However, if someone said that they came from beyond the desolation, it meant they had crossed the devil domain wasteland separating this world from the sovereign emperor heaven. That was why Li Shuangwen was shocked. Due to the suppression of the laws, it was almost impossible to pass through the devil domain wasteland. Even though they knew there was a world beyond it, no one had a way of crossing over. Long Chun briefly explained how he had crossed the wasteland, moving Li Shuangwen. Then Sir's power must truly be shocking to slaughter your way through those devil creatures. It's hard to believe, Li Shuangwen praised, but he suddenly clapped his forehead. Ah, how rude of me. You said you wanted to find one of your friends. Zhang Wenlong, said Long Chun. He truly wanted to know if Zhang Wenlong had made it here. So, things would be a bit easier. Our Huayun Trading Company has a total of 8,765 Zhang Wenlongs. All of them match the age, lower plane ascension, and other details you mentioned. They are spread throughout every corner of the heaven essence world. It will be difficult to locate the exact one. That many? Long Chun was absolutely shocked. After thinking for a moment, Long Chun said, "That's fine. I'm not in a hurry to find him. Then how about this? What do you think of the medicinal pill? Is your Huayun Trading Company interested in them?" "Of course we're interested. This is a peerless grade golden pill. We haven't auctioned something like this in many years," replied Li Shuangwen immediately. What Long Chun had given the attendant was a peerless grade longevity extending pill, the same one he had given Chu He. This medicinal pill was like an extra life to those whose longevity was coming to an end, and they would be willing to pay a lot for it. The Huayun Trading Company operated its own auction houses, and for these auctions to succeed, they needed top-tier items. By attracting large crowds and raising excitement, they could sell such treasures at excellent prices. A peerless grade longevity-extending pill would drive people mad. So, as soon as Li Shuangwen saw it, he rushed over, not wanting to make Long Chun wait. "I have several more golden pills like this, along with some mutated medicinal plants. I'd like you to auction them for me. If there are other mutated medicinal ingredients, I would also be interested in trading for them," Long Chun said, taking out more cases. Even Li Shuangwen couldn't help but be amazed by what was inside. Long Chun had taken out over 10 peerless-grade golden pills, each one different from the others. Such pills might not appear for years, and yet here were over 10 of them. Li Shuangwen's shock was unmistakable. As for the mutated medicinal ingredients, those were not as surprising. After all, this place was near the border of endless desolation, so the Huayun Trading Company frequently encountered mutated plants. Even so, when Long Chun produced hundreds of them, the shock returned to Li Shuangwen's face. These medicinal ingredients were ones Long Chun had obtained from the Wang family. After planting them in the primal chaos space, they rapidly proliferated. Now, he had large fields of them, so he took one of each to see if he could trade for even more mutated medicinal ingredients. "Help me deal with these items and continue searching for Zhang Wenlong, the one from the Martial Heaven continent who knows me. If you find him, count these transactions under his name. I hope I can see him soon," Long Chun said. Long Chun knew that promotions within the Huayun Trading Company were based on business. The more business someone did, the higher their status and authority within the company. Hence, it was of vital importance to find Zhang Wenlong quickly. After talking with Li Shuangwen, Long Chun requested a map of the Heaven Essence world. Then he went to Qingxi, and Li Shuangwen personally saw them off. Once they left the Huayun Trading Company, Qingxi asked, "Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, where are we going now?" "Wait for me at the transportation formation. I'm taking a quick trip to the Soaring Dragon Company," Long Chun replied. "You don't want me to accompany you?" asked Qingxi. "No need. I'm just going to count some inventory. I'll be fast." Long Chun parted ways with Qingxi once more and flew straight for the Soaring Dragon Company. The Soaring Dragon Company wasn't far from the Huayun Trading Company, but its extravagant buildings made it stand out. However, despite their flashiness, they lacked the refined dignity of the Huayun Trading Company, resembling the gaudy wealth of a villager who had suddenly become rich. The moment Long Chun arrived, dozens of barely dressed women sauntered over, swaying their hips. "Is this the Soaring Dragon Company? Or did I walk into the wrong place?" Long Chun's first thought was that he had accidentally wandered into a brothel. After this warm welcome, Long Chun didn't waste time and took out the token he had. Someone immediately rushed to report his arrival. While waiting in the lounge, Long Chun couldn't help but notice how lavish it was. The floor was covered in the fur of 6-vein emperor demonic beasts. He didn't know what kind of demonic beast it was, but its fur was incredibly soft, giving a comfortable feeling when walking across it. The chairs in the lounge were made of dragon bone, glossy and white like jade. Moreover, they were embedded with various kinds of rare immortal metals and gemstones, which carried various kinds of energies. Just looking at them gave people the urge to pull them out for themselves. Before long, the greedy elder arrived and greeted Long Chun warmly. "Young friend, you came quickly. Apologies for keeping you waiting. I had some other matters to attend to." "You're too courteous. Let's get right to business. I have some stock for you to evaluate," Long Chun replied. pulling out a case and opening it just enough to reveal a row of golden medicinal pills. When the elder saw the row of peerless-grade golden pills, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He hastily said, "Young friend, quick, put that away. This isn't the right place to discuss such matters. Let's switch locations." "All right." Long Chun nodded and followed the elder. But as they left the main path, Long Chun sensed something was off. The outer area had been filled with beautiful women fawning over the guests. Yet now, the halls were lined with large, muscular men hiding in the shadows. Although they were hidden in the darkness, could they really escape Long Chen's senses? Internally, he sneered at the Soaring Dragon Company's blatant treachery, but his expression remained calm. Their service was as first-class as ever. After passing through a few more rooms, they arrived at an iron gate. The elder smiled and said, "This is the Soaring Dragon Company's top-secret treasury. We also use it to treat our most important guests." Long Chun held back another sneer. The treasury had the unmistakable atmosphere of a prison. Once someone entered, they likely never left. As the iron gate slowly rose, Long Chun saw that the inside was as luxurious as before. However, the smell of blood was unconcealable. Long Chun instantly knew what was going to happen when he smelled the slight trace of blood, but he still walked in behind the elder without hesitation. As soon as they stepped through, the iron gate slammed shut behind them, closing instantly, unlike the slow opening. The moment the gate closed, the elder's smile vanished, replaced with an icy ferociousness. Before the elder could give any orders, Long Chun slapped him across the face, instantly shattering half of it. Shocked, the elder furiously shouted, "Attack!" From hidden spots in the walls, numerous figures emerged, powerful human emperors with sharp, lethal auras. They were clearly trained fighters, unlike the elder. However, they were still nothing in front of Long Chun. With a wave of his hand, lightning surged out, obliterating over 10 human emperors before they could even approach him. As a businessman, shouldn't recognizing the value of people and things be your forte? Sending this kind of trash against me? Sai, are you looking down on me? Long Chun sneered, turning back to the elder. The elder's face was bleeding badly, but he didn't care about any of that. Staring in shock, he shouted, "Who are you?" "I've told you. I'm here to do business," Long Chun answered, shrugging. In a desperate attempt, the elder slammed his hand toward a button on the wall, but before he could reach it, his arm was torn off. Blood soaked his robes. "Ah!" the elder screamed. This elder might have a powerful cultivation base, but it had no actual power behind it. It was clearly the result of external help. In actual combat, he was weaker than an average heaven saint. Let alone Long Chun. Even Qing Shi could easily crush him. The reason he could sit in his position was all thanks to his sinister scheming. After grabbing the elder's throat like hoisting a chicken, Long Chun coldly asked, "How do you want to die?" "No, don't kill me. I can give you anything you want," cried out the elder. "You'll agree to anything I say?" Long Chen's gaze instantly turned sinister, and his spiritual strength locked onto the elder. Under this pressure, it was impossible for the elder to lie. Boom! The elder exploded moments later. From what Long Chun had extracted, the Soaring Dragon Company mostly dealt with major sections. If a person with no background came to trade and had valuable enough treasures, they would simply be consumed. Just before Long Chun arrived, this elder had murdered an adventurer and stolen their hard-earned treasures. Furthermore, the elder didn't lie about where they were. It truly was the Soaring Dragon Company's treasury, albeit only the outer part. Long Chun pressed a button on the wall, and the iron gate slowly rose again. He took out a handkerchief, wiping the blood off his hands as he calmly walked out. "Senior, are you ready?" asked Long Chun to the earth cauldron. "You're really going to rob them again? Isn't this shameless?" The earth cauldron replied, sounding exasperated. "What are you talking about? When you looted the Wang family's medicinal field, you didn't say anything like that," pointed Long Chun. "Fine. Pretend I didn't say anything. Boom! The entire soaring dragon company exploded as the earth cauldron dug out an enormous square iron treasury from underground. Get in here, Long Chun said, feeling delighted. After he formed a series of quick hand seals, a whirlpool appeared behind him, and he directly stuffed the treasury into the primal chaos space. Just as Long Chun completed this, countless waves of divine sense scanned him, and the weakest of them belonged to a seven-vein human emperor. Under their terrifying pressure, Long Chen's soul quivered. Brat, you're courting death. Experts roared in fury as they charged toward him from all directions. Bye! Long Chen chuckled. The earth cauldron quivered above his head, and the two of them instantly vanished. Qing Shi stood anxiously beside the transportation formation, holding 2 jade tablets, the tickets for using the formation. While the formation was about to activate, Long Chun was nowhere to be seen. Buzz. Just as the 8 pillars of light ignited around the formation, Long Chun appeared beside her. Here. Qing Shi quickly handed him one of the tablets. When Long Chun received it, the two of them stepped foot onto the transportation formation. No sooner had they boarded than the formation activated. Space rippled, and in an instant, they vanished. Immediately after, chaos exploded in Ying Prefecture City. Countless experts came flying out and rushed over to the transportation formation. It's the Soaring Dragon Company, shouted someone who recognized them. Where is this transportation formation headed? An enraged 8-vein human emperor of the Soaring Dragon Company bellowed. His anger was seething, but the formation's operators merely stared back in silence. Are you deaf? The furious human emperor roared when they didn't respond. At this moment, a middle-aged guard stepped forward. Although he only had a Heaven Saint cultivation base, he was fearless against that 8-vein human emperor. Guild leader Zhao, please remember one thing. Your Soaring Dragon Company is welcome to do business in Ying Prefecture, but Ying Prefecture City is not yours. We belong to the City Lord Mansion and not under your company. In fact, we have never taken one mouthful of food from your Soaring Dragon Company. So if you wish to speak to us, be a bit more polite, or I might just decide not to answer at all. You! Fine, so you're working together with that brat. How dare you steal my Soaring Dragon Company's treasury? You must have a death wish. Guild leader Zhao's face contorted with rage. What? The Soaring Dragon Company's treasury was stolen? All the surrounding experts gasped. The thought of the Soaring Dragon Company's treasury being plundered was almost unbelievable. If it weren't for the guild leader himself confirming it, no one would have dared to entertain the idea. The brave middle-aged guard also jumped in shock, not expecting this matter to involve something so huge. However, he maintained his composure and coldly replied, Guild leader Zhao, for good or worse, you are a major figure with a reputation. It would be best if you didn't randomly slander people. Although I am nothing more than a guard, I still belong to the City Lord Mansion. Think about the consequences of throwing mud on the City Lord Mansion. Hearing this, Guild leader Zhao clenched his teeth furiously. As powerful as the Soaring Dragon Company was, they were merely guests in Ying Prefecture and could not afford to offend the City Lord. Seeing that this guard had nothing to do with this matter, Guild leader Zhao's tone softened. Tell me, where did that fellow get transported to just now? The Cloud River Valley, replied the guard. When the guild leader Zhao heard that, his heart sank. It was an extremely long transportation. The formation wouldn't be ready for another use for 10 days, and even with extra resources, it would take at least 3 days to recharge. By then, it would be too late to catch Long Chin. That bastard. I swear I'll make him pay 1,000 times over for stealing my Soaring Dragon Company's things. Guild leader Zhao growled before storming off, leaving behind a trail of shocked onlookers. News of the Soaring Dragon Company being robbed by a mysterious black-robed figure spread like wildfire. Buzz. The journey through space lasted an hour before Long Chan and Qing Shi reappeared amid the ruins of a city. This was Cloud River Valley. Qing Shi led the way now, and they flew for 3 days. After passing a wasteland, they arrived at a small city and got on its transportation formation. This pattern of travel and teleportation continued for half a month. Along the way, Long Chun checked the map provided by the Huayun Trading Company, which was exceptionally detailed. Every place they passed was clearly marked, making it easy for Long Chun to follow. The map depicted the Heaven Essence world, with a distinct semicircle at its center, like a ball cut in half. A black dotted line outlined the semicircle, and the inside was shaded dark gray. The endless desolation looked like just a circle around them, but the inhabitants of the Heaven Essence world knew that it was a forbidden territory. None of them dared to set a foot on it. If the world that the First Branch Academy had been in was a prison, then the Heaven Essence world could be considered an even larger prison. Long Chun had many questions, especially about the semicircle and its meaning. When he asked Li Shuangwen, the man could only offer an apology, explaining that some knowledge was restricted. There were also many mysterious symbols on the map that Long Chun didn't understand. According to Li Shuangwen, these markings were reserved for individuals with higher authority. Despite these mysteries, Long Chun wasn't in a hurry. From what he could tell, even after half a month of traveling, they hadn't even covered 1% of the entire map. As they journeyed, Long Chun noticed that they were approaching a blue sea area marked on the map. He guessed that this must be the Wind God Sea Pavilion. She remained tense the entire time, as if they were being chased by wolves. Amused, Long Chun reassured her that their enemies wouldn't catch up, but she remained uneasy, only feeling safe once they reached the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, don't laugh at me. In 2 more days we'll arrive in the Wind God Sea Pavilion's territory. I'll happily laugh and dance once we're there. She exclaimed. After 2 more days of flight, Long Chun felt the shift in the air. It was as if the wind itself had disappeared, and everything had become unnervingly still. As for Shi, she was now relaxed. It seemed that this was the domain of the Wind God Sea Pavilion. This is the land of the Wind God Sea Pavilion. In another 7 days we'll arrive at the Wind God Island. The island houses the core treasure of the pavilion, the Wind Dominion Pearl. It compresses the wind energy of the entire region to enhance our cultivation. She explained. The notion of compressing all the wind energy into one spot amazed Long Chun. The Wind Dominion Pearl sounded like an artifact of extraordinary power. She then changed into her formal robes, light blue with a silver pagoda embroidered on the sleeves, collar, and chest. The moment she donned them, her aura was instantly revitalized. Even the robes have a formation drawn onto them? Long Chun asked, surprised. After all, she was only an outer disciple, but even her robes had formations backing them. That was truly amazing. The material of these robes couldn't be ordinary. Just as she finished dressing, several figures appeared on the horizon. Upon seeing them, she quickly pulled Long Chun aside. However, the strangers noticed them and immediately rushed over. How troublesome! She's expression darkened when those people flew over. Why? Are they not from your sect? Asked Long Chun. They're native disciples and they look down on us foreign disciples. Even though we're all outer disciples, they still want to suppress us to show off their superiority, replied Shi with an ugly expression. How can they tell you're an outer disciple? Oh, I see, Long Chun said, glancing at their robes. Those disciples had similar robes to Shi's, but the material was clearly different. It was glossier and brighter. In comparison, Shi's robes looked a bit shabbier. It was clear these people came from wealth. Thinking of the robes he had seen in Pill Valley, Long Chun found that these kinds of robes were a luxury good in the cultivation world. There were 3 men and 1 woman in the group. The man at the front had fair skin and complexion but appeared incredibly arrogant. He gave Long Chun a dismissive glance before turning to Shi. Who is he? You're just an outer disciple. You can't bring outsiders to the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Furious at being interrogated like a criminal, Shi retorted, He is? You don't know who I am? Long Chun cut in with a haughty tone. Tell me, do you know Tang Wanner? Of course. She is one of our Wind God Sea Pavilion's 8 great divine daughters. But what does that have to do with a small-time sage king like you? Replied the man as he sized Long Chen up, his disdain growing more obvious. I am her man, Long Chen declared, patting his chest loftily. What bullshit! How dare you slander Fairy Wanner? You are courting death, cursed the arrogant man. Not one to be outdone at a cursing battle. Long Chen pointed at the guy and countered, You're the one spouting bullshit. Your ass is shitting it right now. Shut it off. Courting death! The man roared and threw a punch at Long Chen's face. Senior apprentice brother. Don't. Ching, she cried out, though it wasn't clear whether she was warning the man or Long Chen. Pow! Before anyone realized it, Long Chen's hand connected with the man's face, sending him flying backward. The other 3 disciples immediately moved to draw their swords, but as soon as they touched the hilts, an overwhelming sensation of death froze them in place. It was as though they had been thrown into an icehouse, paralyzed by fear. They could only stare in horror at Long Chen. If you attack me with your fists, I'll just treat it as playing around. But if you dare to draw your weapons, I will see you as enemies. Unfortunately, I don't show mercy to enemies, said Long Chen coldly. The 3 disciples were petrified. They had never encountered someone whose killing intent could form its own domain, locking down their minds, shaking their souls, and suppressing their wills. It was unbearable. I'll kill you, the slapped disciple roared, charging back like a madman. Before he could land a blow, Qing Shi intervened, disarming him with a swift move. Caught off guard, his sword flew out of his hand, enraging him further. How dare you collude with an outsider to attack your own sect? Are you rebelling against the Wind God Sea Pavilion? Bellowed that man furiously. Hearing this, Qing Shi trembled with anger. Though she hadn't known Long Chen for long, she was sure he was a fearless man. If the disciple had attacked Long Chen, he would have died. By disarming him, Qing Shi had essentially saved his life. However, instead of thanking her, he accused her of treason. She was so angry that she couldn't even respond. You're too kind, Long Chen said with a shrug. You saved this fool, and he acts like you've harmed him. Why bother helping such idiots? It's fine. I just want to have a clear conscience at all times. Qing Shi replied, showing a bitter smile. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, don't quibble with them. Let's just go find senior apprentice sister Wanner. You want to leave? Keep dreaming. Capture that little fellow? The man snarled, summoning his sword back to his hand. Along with the other 3 disciples, he blocked their path, and all 4 activated their manifestations. Scram! With one shout, a ripple spread from Long Chen, blasting all 4 of them away. They flew back in 4 different directions, and no one knew how far they went. Qing Shi's heart sank momentarily, but Long Chen reassured her. Don't worry, they won't die. This is Wanner's sect after all. I won't kill people randomly here. Hearing that they were still alive, Qing Shi relaxed. She quickly led Long Chen around any other disciples they encountered, not wanting to stir up more trouble. As they continued, Qing Shi's speed gradually increased. After all, she had almost limitless access to wind energy here, but no matter how fast she went, Long Chen easily kept up. Rushing through this area, they flew by quite a few disciples of the Wind God Sea Pavilion who were hunting. Some called out for them to stop, but Qing Shi ignored them and continued to rush through with Long Chen. Is the conflict between native and foreign disciples really this bad? Long Chen asked. Yes, we face immense pressure from the native disciples. However, the one who suffers the most is definitely senior apprentice sister Wanner. As the leader of the foreign heavenly geniuses, she's constantly rejected by the other divine daughters. The 8 divine sons also see conquering her as a challenge, competing amongst themselves and even gambling on it to humiliate her. Senior apprentice sister Wanner is essentially facing off against all the top heavenly geniuses of the Wind God Sea Pavilion alone. The pressure on her is unimaginable, explained Qing Shi. Fuck. They dare to bully my woman? If I don't beat the crap out of them, they won't know who Boss Long San is. Long Chen snapped, fury burning in his eyes. Let's go. I want to see who dares to bully my Wanner, declared Long Chun. Suddenly, Long Chun grabbed Qing Shi, causing her to cry out. His lightning wings unfurled, and with a twist of space, the two vanished. The Wind God Sea Pavilion was located on a section of the Devil Sea known as the Wind God Sea. Thanks to the domain created by the Wind Dominion Pearl, the devil creatures couldn't survive in this region. Instead, countless demonic beasts dwelled within it. This area could be considered a small gulf within the Devil Sea, yet it felt like a completely different world. While the rest of the Devil Sea was filled with turbulent devil chi, the Wind God Sea was calm and clear, teeming with life. Its waters were a beautiful azure, entirely lacking the Devil Sea's ferocity. Scattered throughout the sea were countless islands, resembling stars in the night sky, all orbiting a central island. The central island was the Wind God Island, atop which stood an enormous structure that rose higher than the clouds, the Wind God Sea Pavilion. It was a divine object left behind by the Wind God herself, a legacy from the Primal Chaos era. The Wind God had perished in the Great Primal Chaos War, and the Wind God Sea Pavilion was her only remaining inheritance. The pavilion had a total of 13 levels. At the highest level was the Wind Dominion Pearl, which shone like a full moon, illuminating the heavens and the earth. Although the Wind God had died countless years ago, her legacy endured, and her inheritance continued to thrive within the Heaven Essence world. There was a giant gate at the front of Wind God Island. But different from the beautiful entrance gates of other sects, this gate was made of several crude pieces of rock. However, when Long Chun stood in front of this gate, his heart shook. He was instantly drawn onto the characters inscribed on the gate. Limitless Wind. The moment Long Chun laid eyes on those words, he was stunned. The space around him seemed to twist, and Qing Shi disappeared from his senses. He felt as though he had been drawn into a rift in spacetime, leaving only him and the boulder before him. He then saw a graceful hand reach out and trace a finger across the stone. Fragments of rock flew off as the characters were etched into it. The boulder had originally been nothing special, but after the inscription, it felt imbued with life, exuding a divine aura. Time passed. The world shuttled through the ages, but the stone remained. Instead of becoming weathered, it grew even more spiritual. As Long Chun stared at the boulder, it seemed to gaze back at him. Though no words were exchanged, a silent communication took place, as though the stone was a mirror reflecting the passage of time. An ordinary stone, yet with a single touch, it was given life, transcending decay and becoming infused with divine energy. Is this the power of a god? Long Chun was awestruck. The once ordinary rock now exuded a majestic energy. After being granted life, it seemed to cultivate its own spirit. Long Chun couldn't measure its power, but in its presence, he felt minuscule, and a natural sense of reverence welled up within him. Seeing Long Chun standing there, lost in a trance, Qing Shi was bewildered. To her astonishment, the characters on the gate started to shine with divine light, illuminating Long Chun. Qing Shi saw it very clearly but had no idea what was going on. She then remembered when she and the other disciples had first arrived at the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Back then, countless experts watched them pass through this very gate. However, nothing unusual happened, except when Tang Wan'er and her master, Feng Xinyue, walked by. At that time, the Wind God's stone emitted a powerful fluctuation, shaking the entire pavilion. Afterward, Feng Xinyue became one of the highest-ranking elders, and Tang Wan'er rose to the position of divine daughter. Although the pavilion's higher-ups never disclosed the secrets of the Wind God Stone, everyone knew that causing a reaction from it upon their first encounter signified extraordinary potential. Seeing Long Chun elicit a similar reaction, Qing Shi was both shocked and excited. Did this mean Long Chun possessed the same terrifying potential as Tang Wan'er? The Wind God Stone's fluctuations quickly faded, along with the image in Long Chun's mind. He saw everything around him once more. There was no one standing in front of the Wind God Stone other than the two of them. Other than Qing Shi, no one else saw this reaction. How amazing! Long Chun murmured, cupping his fists in respect toward the Wind God Stone. This wind god stone was no ordinary stone. It was a life form that had cultivated for countless years. After Long Chun offered his greeting, the stone's divine light rose slowly, as if responding to him. She was completely stunned when she saw this. Did this not mean that Long Chun could communicate with the wind god stone? "Senior apprentice brother, let's go," she urged. Realizing this was their best chance to enter undetected, she quickly pulled Long Chun along, and they hurried through the gate. However, just as they entered, a group of disciples happened to be coming out. She silently cursed her luck. These people had appeared at the worst possible time. Now they couldn't dodge even if they wanted to. She lowered her head, dragging Long Chun along. She was praying that these people would ignore them. But the group noticed them. One woman in particular looked at Long Chun strangely, surprised to see an outsider in the pavilion. However, when she recognized Qingxi's robes, her expression turned hostile. "You foreign barbarian, don't you know that you should make way for us native disciples?" she sneered. Within the Wind God Sea Pavilion, there was a deep-seated discrimination between native disciples of the Heaven Essence world and those from outside the desolation. The foreign disciples were often subjected to scorn and had no choice but to endure it. Under normal circumstances, Qingxi would have simply avoided these native disciples by taking another smaller route. But with Long Chun by her side, she couldn't bear to lower herself like that. Qingxi immediately panicked, not knowing what to do. "Foreigner? Barbarian?" Long Chun frowned. These insults irritated him. Looking at the woman who had spoken, he remarked, "You have a decent face and a good build, but how are your pretty eyes filled with such idiocy? Child, it's best to train hard and learn while you're young. Don't act like you're higher than you are, or people will think you're just an ignorant frog. You're courting death." The woman was livid that a mere sage king dared to lecture her, a heaven saint. "Senior apprentice sister, let me teach him a lesson," exclaimed one of her companions. He seemed to feel like this was his chance to show off, so he immediately stepped forward, reaching for Long Chen's collar. "Damn it!" She groaned inwardly and closed her eyes, bracing for what was about to happen. As soon as the man raised his hand, Long Chun flicked him lightly across the face, sending him to the ground. The man grunted as the air was knocked out of him, and then passed out. "You dare to fight back?" shouted one of the man's companions. The group was enraged, as if Long Chun should have obediently let himself be beaten, as if resistance was a great blasphemy to them. They immediately swamped him. "Aya! What the fuck? My arm!" In an instant, all of the guys lay on the ground, writhing in pain. The only one left standing was the arrogant woman, and she was staring at Long Chun in shock. He had moved so fast that she barely saw him before the others collapsed. "You guys have quite a temper for being so weak. Children, remember to never leave the Wind God Sea Pavilion, or you'll die before you even realize what's happening," advised Long Chun. Most disciples of the Wind God Sea Pavilion lack skill in close-range combat, likely because they focus too much on their spiritual strength and wind energy. Overall, their close-quarters abilities were weaker than those of average cultivators. Perhaps their lives had been too comfortable, resulting in their fighting skills being tailored only for martial stages displays, flashy but filled with openings. Long Chin knew he could kill dozens of these disciples with a single strike. Still, this wasn't surprising to him. While the Wind God Sea Pavilion's disciples might be weak in hand-to-hand combat, once they unleashed their wind energy, their killing power could be terrifying. However, no matter how shocking their killing power was, once an enemy got close to them, they were done for. She had suffered the same fate. She had let Changyi get close and injure her, weakening her. However, these disciples were even worse than Qingxi in this regard. Who are you?" the woman asked, her voice quivering. Long Chun ignored her and walked past the group just like that. Seeing this, she could only thicken her face and follow him. In any case, things had spiraled out of her control. Just as they entered the pavilion, a crowd of disciples appeared, drawn by the commotion. "Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, please hold back. I'll report this to senior apprentice sister Wan Er," Please try not to escalate things. Ching, she said nervously. Sensing the unfriendly expressions from the approaching disciples, she quickly ran off to make the report while everyone's attention was on Long Chun. Who are you? Why did you harm disciples of the Wind God Sea Pavilion? If you don't give us a good reason, don't even think about leaving, shouted someone as they surrounded Long Chun. I wasn't planning on leaving, Long Chun replied. Move aside. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here for my fiancé. Your fiancé? Who is your fiancé? One of the disciples asked. She is one of the Wind God Sea Pavilion's 8 divine daughters, Tang Wan-er, Long Chun declared arrogantly. The disciples were stunned at first, but their shock quickly turned into outrage. Where did this wild brat come from? How dare you speak of our divine daughter like that? Are you tired of living? Shouted one of the disciples. Long Chen's patience wore thin and he replied, You should be grateful that I'm in a good mood right now. Do you realize how close you are to being beaten? Long Chun tried his best to stay calm. This was Tang Wan-er's sect, and it wasn't the place for him to cause a scene. Besides, he knew that if he lost his temper, he might not be able to control himself and could do something he'd regret. Other than that, these people were only outer disciples of the Wind God Sea Pavilion. For him to fight them would be like bullying children, and he didn't want to embarrass himself. Bastard, you dare to look down on us? One of the disciples yelled, charging at Long Chun. Before they knew it, Long Chun vanished, leaving the disciples looking around in confusion. They didn't even see where he went. Finally, one of them cried out and pointed upward. Long Chun was sitting casually on top of the Wind God Stone, looking down at them. Those disciples were livid. The Wind God Stone was a sacred object of the Wind God Sea Pavilion, with characters personally written by the Wind God. Sitting on it was a blasphemous act to the Wind God and the greatest provocation to the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Get down here, brat. Even 10,000 deaths wouldn't atone for your blasphemy toward the Wind God Stone, one of the disciples yelled. However, despite their fury, no one dared to attack Long Chun because they didn't dare to fly on top of the Wind God Stone. Seeing this, Long Chun smiled. He had expected this reaction and had purposely climbed up there to avoid further conflict. Now, he could just wait for Tang Wan-er without having to lift a finger. However, Long Chun didn't realize the extent of his taboo act. More and more disciples gathered, shouting for him to come down, but he ignored them all. This was the entrance to the Wind God Sea Pavilion, a busy place where disciples often came and went. Before long, tens of thousands of them had gathered, filled with outrage. After a while, some of them started to whisper amongst themselves, speculating about Long Chen's background. Out of the way! A cold voice suddenly rang out. The next moment, the outer disciples parted, giving way to a group of figures with strong auras. Long Chen glanced at them. The newcomers wore robes adorned with golden thread. Unlike Qing, she's silver-embroidered robes. Inner disciples, someone gasped, confirming Long Chen's suspicions. A group of 7 inner disciples approached, led by a stocky, fierce-looking man who seemed to hold a great deal of prestige among the disciples. Come down, little fellow, or you'll be beaten black and blue, the fierce-looking man warned. No thanks, Long Chun replied with mock fear. If I come down, you'll beat me, and I'm afraid I won't be able to beat you. You? The fierce-looking disciple was furious. Come down. I swear I won't beat you. TCH, and who's to say the others won't? Long Chun thought. He had seen through tricks like this when he was a child. Shaking his head, Long Chun replied, No way. You look too scary. Just look at your own face. You're clearly not someone I can trust. I don't believe you. Several disciples tried to suppress their laughter. The man really did have a frightening face, but no one had ever dared to mention it. When Long Chun pointed it out, the surrounding disciples did their best to hold back their laughter. The man trembled with rage and leaped into the air, lunging at Long Chun. In his fury, he no longer cared about all the rules. Heavens! Get away from me, you brute! Long Chun pretended to panic, falling to the floor and kicking his legs wildly. One of his feet landed squarely on the disciple's face, sending him crashing to the ground with a thud. The entire crowd went silent as they stared at the clear footprint on the man's face. An inner disciple was left with a clear footprint on his face, and the surrounding disciples stared at each other in shock, unsure of how to react. "I didn't expect your face to be so big. It's even bigger than my foot," exclaimed Long Chun in surprise. The disciple felt a burning sensation on his face, and he couldn't even open his eyes from the pain. But Long Chen's taunt made him feel like he'd explode. With great difficulty, he opened his eyes and suddenly drew his sword. A sharp beam of sword chi shot toward Long Chen's head with deadly precision. The distance and angle of the attack were perfect, showcasing the disciple's above-average skill. Long Chun simply tilted his head slightly, and the attack missed by a hair's breadth. Frustrated, the disciple didn't dare to go all out, fearing that he might damage the wind god stone. That would be a sin none of them could afford. What he didn't realize, though, was that even Long Chen's full power strike wouldn't scratch the sacred stone. But none of the disciples knew this. "If you have guts, come down and fight me," he roared. "Why would I fight you? I'm here to find my Wan'er, not to have a pointless fight with you," replied Long Chun, crossing his legs as he casually sat right beside the wind god stone. From his vantage point, Long Chun could see the wind god sea pavilion in the distance, so he simply ignored that man's cursing and gazed into the distance. While he could see countless figures rushing over, he didn't sense Wan'er's familiar aura. Soon, inner disciples began to join the growing crowd. Hundreds of thousands of disciples had gathered, driven by a mixture of curiosity and anger. This only confirmed that Long Chen's decision to retreat to the wind godstone was wise. If he hadn't, who knew how many people he would have beaten. With the way some of them talked, he might have been pushed to kill just to silence their filthy mouths. As more experts poured in, Qing Shi had yet to reappear, and there was still no sign of Tang Wan'er. This absence made Long Chun increasingly uneasy. Moreover, the insults and taunts from the crowd were escalating, and Long Chen's patience wore thin. To prevent a disaster, Long Chun chose to shut off his senses, leaning back with his eyes closed, waiting as patiently as he could. There was little else he could do for now. Meanwhile, the gathered disciples whispered among themselves, speculating about his identity. Suddenly, a shocked voice broke through the murmurs. "He's Long Chun?" The revelation spread like wildfire through the crowd. Someone finally remembered what Qing Shi had called him before she left in a hurry, and the name quickly rippled through the masses, causing an uproar. How can that be? Fairy Wan'er's Long Chun is supposed to be a peerless genius with unrivaled talent and power, unmatched in the mortal and immortal worlds. But this fellow is only a sage king. Sure, his looks aren't terrible, and his clothes match, but I don't think he is the Long Chun. People started to discuss the new possibility, and some skeptical people were stunned. Exchanging a look, some of them suddenly attacked Long Chun at the same time. Over 10 wind blades shot toward Long Chun like lightning, drawing gasps from the crowd. But before the blades could touch him, a violet divine light flared, shattering the attacks effortlessly. What? The onlookers were stunned. These inner disciples had delivered a serious blow, but Long Chen's protective chi remained unscathed. The attackers then drew their swords. Circulating their wind energy, they once more attacked. In the end, their sharp blades barely made a dent in the violet chi barrier, and that was it. "What is going on?" shouted one of the attackers. Their swords were wind element divine weapons. They were incomparably sharp, but still couldn't break Long Chen's protective chi. Can he really be Fairy Wan'er's Long Chun? At this moment, some people began to believe that the man before them was indeed Long Chun. Refusing to back down, the attackers gritted their teeth and summoned their heavenly fate discs. Their auras surged, multiplying their strength many times over. Under their pressure, Long Chen's protective chi wavered slightly, and he finally opened his eyes. Boom! In an instant, the power of Long Chen's violet blood erupted, shattering their swords and sending the entire crowd flying. Every one of them coughed up blood as they crashed backward, completely overpowered. I don't like when people point their weapons at me. If you do it again, I might kill you all, Long Chun said coldly. His voice sent a chill through their souls, freezing the defiant murmurs in their throats. Without another word, Long Chun closed his eyes and shut off his senses once more, unwilling to be disturbed. He activated his violet blood barrier again. Though not as overwhelmingly aggressive as his dragon blood, the violet blood was extremely resilient and adaptable. It wouldn't retaliate unless he willed it. If he had used his 7-color supreme blood or dragon blood to form the barrier, the moment it was attacked, it would have detonated with destructive force, instantly obliterating anyone foolish enough to test it. With a single blow, Long Chun had taught them a harsh lesson. Despite knowing they were outmatched, they still recklessly attacked him. They really liked flirting with death. You really are Long Chun? Someone finally dared to ask, their voice trembling a bit. Long Chun didn't bother replying. Whether he confirmed it or not didn't matter. The only thing he cared about was waiting for Tang Waner. He is Long Chun, the one in senior apprentice sister Waner's heart. Don't act stupidly. Qing Shi's voice rang out as she rushed back with a large group of disciples. The group consisted entirely of women, numbering in the thousands. Long Chun quickly noticed that most of them were outer disciples, but there were also hundreds of inner disciples among them. Each of the inner disciples bore the character Wan on their collars, marking them as followers of divine daughter Tang Waner. Seeing so many of Tang Waner's followers appear here left little room for doubt. The black-robed man before them was certainly the extraordinary figure that Tang Waner had often spoken of. Long Chun? How arrogant! Do you think the Wind God Sea Pavilion is a place where you can act recklessly? Today, I'll teach you a lesson. A thunderous voice suddenly boomed through the sky, filled with authority and disdain. Qing Shi and the others' expressions instantly shifted to alarm. In unison, they shouted, Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, watch out! The space above Long Chun twisted violently as a large hand tore through the viad, descending toward him with terrifying speed. The pressure it brought was suffocating, crushing the air around them. Every disciple present felt as if their bones might shatter under its sheer might. Before the attacker even revealed themselves, the ground shook from the sheer force of their palm. It was clearly the work of a top expert, its swiftness leaving Long Chun with no time to dodge. You think someone like you is qualified to teach me a lesson? Long Chun snorted. Without using his dragon blood energy or astral power, he raised his hand, relying solely on his physical strength. Boom! Their palms clashed, and the shockwave from the clash rippled in every direction, blowing apart the clouds and revealing the figure of the attacker above Long Chun. Blown back by Long Chun's palm, the long-haired attacker flipped 3 times in midair before finally stabilizing himself. Even without the power of his bloodline, Long Chun's strike was powerful enough to shatter mountains. Hence, the attacker somersaulted 3 times to mitigate the immense force of Long Chun's strike. He was clearly skillful. You have some strength, but not enough to teach me a lesson, Long Chun remarked coldly. Heavens! It's Qian Rinshue's divine retainer, Yen Beifei. Several startled cries erupted from the crowd. A divine retainer was a prestigious title given to attendants of divine sons and daughters. It was a position requiring both talent and immense strength, along with absolute loyalty to their respective divine sons and daughters. Yen Beifei was the retainer of Qian Rinshue, the former divine daughter. After Tang Waner had defeated Qian Rinshue, Yen Beifei's position had become ambiguous. However, he still believed that Qian Rinshue would reclaim her title, and he harbored deep resentment toward Tang Waner. As a result, Yen Beifei would always cause trouble for her side. When he heard that Long Chun had appeared, he immediately rushed over. Big words. I only used my weakest point, my physical power, in that last attack. I was afraid of accidentally killing you in one attack, so I was just testing you, declared Yen Beifei. Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, don't fight him. He is Qian Renshue's retainer. As long as you don't attack him, he won't dare to do anything to you, shouted Qing Shi. According to the rules of the Wind God Sea Pavilion, Divine retainers were not allowed to fight disciples beneath them unless challenged. Thus, as long as Long Chun refused to fight, Yan Beifei wouldn't be able to do anything. Otherwise, it would be a serious infraction of the rules. Since Qian Rinxue had lost her divine daughter status, she had 1 year to reclaim it. If she failed, both her title and Yan Beifei's position would be permanently stripped. In the same vein, Yan Beifei was both a divine retainer and not quite one anymore. If he violated the rules, his status could be revoked in an instant, a risk he was unwilling to take. Upon hearing Qing Shi's warning, Yan Beifei sneered. So Tang Wanner's man is just a coward after all. Long Chun chuckled, finding the childish taunt amusing. Calmly, he responded, "It seems you refuse to accept that Wanner has beaten Qian Rinxue?" Yan Beifei snorted. "Of course I refuse to accept it. She got lucky and won by a fluke. Last month, Qian Rinxue challenged her again, but she made excuses to avoid the fight, clearly scared of losing. But it won't matter for long. In another month, she'll have no choice but to face the challenge, and then she'll be knocked off her throne. Humph, a frog at the bottom of a well has no right to aim for the divine daughter's position. Who does Tang Wanner think she is? A foreign barbarian cannot compare to the divine daughter Qian Rinxue." Hearing this, Qing Shi and the others clenched their teeth in frustration. Even someone as powerful as Tang Wanner couldn't escape such prejudice. If that was her reality, what chance did they have? They had long since grown tired of the native disciples' disdain, but there was nothing they could do. It wasn't like they could decide where someone would reincarnate. Looking at Yan Beifei, Long Chun coldly said, "Child, the way you speak is quite unpleasant. It's starting to grate on me." "So what? Everything I said is the truth. In my eyes, all of you are low-tier peasants. The Wind God Sea Pavilion accepted you out of kindness, so you should be grateful. Everything you've gotten to enjoy here was ours. A dog should know its place or someone will have to break its legs. If we tell you to shut your mouths, you should tuck your tails in and shut your mouths. Understand?" Yan Beifei sneered, looking toward Qing Shi and the others at the end. His words were aimed at everyone on Tang Wanner's side, causing many of the foreign disciples to look down in silence, while the native disciples sneered in amusement. After Yan Beifei was done talking, Long Chun stretched out his hands and actually started to clap for him. "What? Are you admitting that I'm right?" Yan Beifei asked, sneering at Long Chun. "No. The crap you're spewing is unbearably stinky. I'm clapping because you've managed to piss me off. It's not easy to do that. It's almost impressive," Long Chun replied calmly. "You're angry? Ha ha ha. Then come face me if you have the guts." Yan Beifei laughed arrogantly, brimming with confidence. "Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, don't. Senior apprentice sister Wanner is on a hunt in the Devil Sea. We've already sent word to her. She'll be back soon. Don't fall for his provocation." Qing Shi shouted anxiously. "Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, stay calm. He is trying to provoke you. If you attack him, he'll have an excuse to wound you," shouted the inner disciples. Long Chun shook his head and sighed. "But he's already wounded me. Wanner is my woman, and her enemies are my enemies. I'll leave Qian Rinxue to her, but I'll deal with this dog myself." Turning to Yan Beifei, he added, "Come. If I don't beat you until you admit defeat, I'll write my name backward." Delighted, Yan Beifei immediately said, "Everyone, you heard him. He's the one challenging me." With a wild gale surging around him, Yan Beifei's wind energy gathered as he shot toward Long Chun. However, when he appeared in front of Long Chun, he vanished, causing startled cries to ring out. It was actually an afterimage. "Senior apprentice brother Long Chun." Qing Shi and the others cried out in alarm as Yan Beifei reappeared behind Long Chun, his sharp claw aiming straight for the back of Long Chun's head. "Fuck off!" Without even turning around, Long Chun swung his hand, violet runes glowing on his palm as it slashed through the air. Yan Beifei was undeniably powerful, with incredible speed and deceptive tactics. But unluckily for him, his opponent was no ordinary fighter. Long Chun was always in battle or preparing for the next one. His combat experience was practically overflowing. So, when Yen Beifei switched movement arts and attempted a surprise attack from behind, Long Chun casually swung his hand, sending Yen Beifei flying. The poor guy tumbled through the air and smashed into the ground, creating a large hole. Unfortunately, the Wind God Island had only a shallow layer of dirt, with solid rock underneath. When Yen Beifei blew through the dirt and collided with the rock, the impact was so fierce that it flung spectators into the air, nearly causing them to cough up blood. What? Everything had happened so quickly that the crowd couldn't react. They stared in disbelief at the hole. The next moment, the earth quivered and Yen Beifei flew out of it. His hair was in disarray, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. But everyone's attention was on a bruising handprint on his face. As Tang Wan'er often spoke about Long Chun, everyone was aware that she had a powerful sweetheart. However, Yen Beifei had never viewed Long Chun as a challenge, as the latter was only a sage king. But everything changed when the slap landed on his face. "You bastard! You only know how to use underhanded tricks," Yen Beifei bellowed, and raged. The ground trembled as wind energy condensed around him. When his heavenly fate disc appeared, divine light filled the sky as he charged at Long Chun again, fully provoked. As a divine retainer, Yen Beifei held himself in supreme regard. To be slapped in the face in public was not something his pride could tolerate. As Yen Beifei unleashed his full power, the surrounding disciples couldn't endure his might and were blown back by the chi waves surging out of him. "Shameless thing, you tried to launch a sneak attack on me but called my slap underhanded? Just how does that stupid brain of yours work?" Long Chun sneered in response. Long Chun didn't unleash his own aura as Yen Beifei went all out. He just stood there on the Wind God Stone, looking at his opponent coldly. "Die!" Yen Beifei screamed in frustration, unable to argue against Long Chun. As an azure rune appeared on Yen Beifei's hand, he slammed his palm down. His powerful aura crashed down on Long Chun, forcing him into a frontal clash. But as they neared each other, Long Chun sidestepped slightly, easily dodging. "What?" Yen Beifei, and everyone else watching, were shocked. Yen Beifei's heavenly fate disc had covered the area with his wind domain, supposedly locking Long Chun in place. According to reason, no matter how Long Chun moved, it would be useless. Yen Beifei's palm was guaranteed to strike him. But despite all that, Long Chun still managed to dodge, which proved that Yen Beifei was fundamentally incapable of locking Long Chun down. But if that were the case, Yen Beifei should have sensed it. The poor dude was baffled. He was certain his wind domain had trapped Long Chun, yet his attack missed. While Yen Beifei tried to process this, Long Chun didn't hesitate, swinging his hand and striking the other side of Yen Beifei's face. Boom! Yen Beifei was sent flying once more. You can't even gauge your opponent's strength before trying to trap them. You're so stupid that there's no helping you. For someone like you to dare look down on everyone else, I really don't understand where your confidence comes from, Long Chun taunted, looking down at Yen Beifei, who was now buried in another crater. Although Long Chun hadn't unleashed any aura, the crowd started to sense an overwhelming mental energy emanating from him. It felt like the aura of an emperor overlooking his empire, making everyone feel small and insignificant in front of it. This feeling was unclear and indescribable. It was a kind of mental pressure, as well as a pressure of the will that made them automatically submit. Yen Beifei's face burned with humiliation as he rose to his feet. After all, he had been beaten down consecutively. Roaring in anger, he summoned countless wind blades that whirled in his hands with ear-piercing sounds. "That's the 10,000 divine wind streams. Has Yen Beifei gone crazy?" shouted a disciple by Qing Shi's side. The 10,000 divine wind streams was a famous killing move in the Wind God Sea Pavilion, capable of compressing all the wind energy of heaven and earth. After the wind energy of heaven and earth formed a resonance with the user's wind energy, they could use their Doyan energy to detonate all the wind energy in a terrifying explosion. It was typically forbidden in sparring matches due to its high risk of accidentally killing the opponent, unless a powerful expert was present to oversee and control the battle. However, in his fury, Yen Beifei unleashed the technique anyway. This clearly showed that he wasn't just aiming to defeat Long Chun. He wanted to kill him. Die! Yen Beifei roared, ignoring the warnings of those around him as he hurled a sphere of wind blades toward Long Chun. On the other hand, Long Chun merely smiled coldly at the incoming attack. He calmly raised his hand to meet it, causing Qing Shi and the others to gasp in fear. Long Chun had yet to release his aura or even enter a combat state, which left Qing Shi in disbelief. She assumed that Long Chun didn't understand how terrifying Yen Beifei's attack was, and her face turned pale with fright. However, just as Long Chun's palm was about to touch that sphere of wind blades, his body seemed to dissolve into thin air. What? Yen Beifei was stunned. He had unleashed the full power of his attack, yet his target had vanished. The wind blades immediately spun out of control. With his eyes wide in shock, Yen Beifei roared, throwing the chaotic wind sphere forward while leaping back to distance himself. But it was too late. The wind blades erupted in an explosion of violent chi waves that crashed into him, causing him to cough up blood. When the dust settled, Yen Beifei was left battered and bloodied, his torn robes revealing countless bloody wounds. Despite managing to toss out the attack at the last moment, he couldn't fully withstand the force of the explosion. As the onlookers stood frozen in disbelief, Long Chun reappeared behind Yen Beifei. Sensing danger, Yen Beifei whipped around, only to be met with Long Chun's foot striking him hard in the butt. Goodbye, Long Chun said calmly as Yen Beifei was sent crashing into the ground like a meteor, leaving a massive crater behind him. Boom! The surrounding experts were pale with fear, too frightened to make a sound. All of a sudden, Yen Beifei shot into the air, divine light surging through his manifestation. His aura changed drastically, and a sharp divine pressure flooded the battlefield. He's using divine energy? Shouted a disciple. Yen Beifei's face was twisted with fury, his expression terrifying. Drawing his plain blue sword, he glared murderously at Long Chun. I'm going to kill you, you damn ant. Before Long Chun could respond, a voice rang out, cutting through the tension. The sound of it struck Long Chun like a bolt of lightning. If you dare to harm a single hair on his head, I will cut you into 1,000 pieces. He slowly raised his head, turning toward the distant figure. A woman tore through space, her azure robes fluttering in the breeze like a celestial being stepping out of a painting. Her long hair danced around her snow-white skin, and her eyes, like precious gemstones, shimmered with emotion. As she saw Long Chun, those eyes grew wet with tears. She possessed an unrivaled beauty and grace, but in the presence of Long Chun, she appeared vulnerable, like a fairy descending into the mortal world. Her lip trembled as she tried to hold back her tears, but they flowed freely down her face. Waner! Long Chen's voice was filled with emotion. Seeing Tang Waner again, his eyes reddened. She was as beautiful as ever, yet the weariness deep in her eyes made his heart ache. In an instant, Long Chun appeared right in front of Tang Waner. Seeing that familiar face, smelling that familiar scent, he spread his arms and pulled Tang Waner into his embrace. Both Long Chun and Tang Waner trembled, their hearts burning with emotion as they reunited. Tang Waner clung to Long Chun, openly weeping in his arms. You scoundrel, why did you take so long? Do you know how tired I am? You bad person? She sobbed, releasing the grief that had built up inside her. I'm sorry for being late, Long Chun whispered, his heart breaking. He knew how much she had endured in his absence. Behind her stubborn and competitive nature was a delicate heart that had always depended on him. Before she met Long Chun, she was very competitive and unyielding, like a hedgehog unafraid of rolling into any challenge. But after that, she removed her own thorns and found her safe haven. If she still put up so many thorns, it would only hurt the ones dear to her, especially Long Chun. For Long Chun, she gave up all her dreams, willing to share life and death with him. But the brutal final battle on the Martial Heaven continent showed her that even Long Chun was not invincible, and she took it upon herself to become stronger. To protect him, she donned her armor and trained relentlessly, not wasting a single moment. No matter how bitter it was, she could endure it. Even if cuts and bruises covered her body, even if she faced trials of death countless times, she did not retreat. None of the hardships could compare to the pain of missing him. She saw him in her dreams, but every time she woke up, she was alone. When Tang Wanner saw Long Chen again, all the grief she had accumulated poured out. She hit him lightly, as if afraid that if she hit too hard, she would wake up from this dream. After all, no one had ever found a cure for the longing that came from missing someone. Not even the strongest person could resist its pain. Long Chen held Tang Wanner close, feeling her trembling in his arms. Her heartbeat, her tears, her emotions. They all flowed into him, leaving his own eyes wet with tears. In Long Chen's heart, Tang Wanner was still the same girl who hadn't completely grown up. Seeing the exhaustion and suffering etched into her face felt like needles stabbing into his heart. The world around them faded away. At that moment, there were only the two of them, lost in each other's embrace. Time seemed to stand still as they held on to one another, ignoring the gazes around them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Tang Wanner's sobs subsided. She raised her tear-stained face to him and asked, "Tell me, did you miss me?" Looking at her, Long Chen was filled with tender affection. Her long eyelashes still held tiny droplets of mist, remnants of her tears. "I did." Long Chen nodded, his voice thick with emotion. Tang Wanner smiled through her tears. All the hardships she had endured now felt worth it. "How much did you miss me?" The same kind of love where you turn yourself into a bridge and endure 500 years of battering wind, 500 years of rain, and 500 years of scorching sun. Also that when you crossed over, you could tell me, "I love you." Tang Wanner's eyes glistened with new tears, tinged with jealousy. Long Chen realized she was referring to the words he had once spoken to Yu Qingxian. He sighed inwardly but smiled at her. "How can the love between us be measured by time?" Long Chen said gently. "From the moment we met, our fates were intertwined. I can never forget the beauty by the water. The words I couldn't say, no matter how many times I saw you in my dreams. Let me say them to you now. After crossing the heavens to see you, I missed you." "Scoundrel, you really are a big scoundrel," Tang Wanner murmured, hitting him lightly on the chest again. The phrase "beauty by the water" wasn't just a description of her tearful self, but a reminder of their time on the martial heaven continent. Back then, Long Chen, Tang Wanner, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Yi Zhiqiu, and the others had gathered by a riverside table, playing a game with a floating flower. Whoever the flower bloomed beside would have to drink and confess their innermost feelings. That day, no one held back, and everyone got a little tipsy, revealing their true emotions. Tang Wanner remembered that day very clearly. The first to get drunk was Yi Zhiqiu, but everyone ended up drunk by the end. After ascending to the immortal world, Tang Wanner had dreamed of that day countless times. Long Chen's words now resonated with her not because they were poetic, but because they touched the deepest part of her heart. Once more, she buried her head in his chest, finding peace in the place where she felt safest. Seeing her like this, Long Chen relaxed. It was a good thing he had reacted quickly. Reading all those books in the High Firmament Academy had definitely paid off, or he'd never have survived this trial of jealousy. "Scoundrel, I suppose you pass. But don't be too pleased. I'll remember how long it took you to find me. We'll settle this debt slowly," said Tang Wanner, wiping away her tears. Her mood lightened after crying. Though she had planned countless ways to torment him, she now felt no desire to use any of them. That didn't mean she would let him off completely, though. Sensing the shift in her mood, Long Chen took a step back and, with exaggerated flair, crossed his arms over his chest and bowed deeply. "Great divine daughter, it is only under your divine light that I can grow. Only with your guidance can this lost lamb find his way once more. From today on, I am your eternal servant. Whatever your orders, I will carry them out without hesitation," Long Chen declared dramatically. Tang Wanner burst into laughter at his antics, forgetting all thoughts of punishment. laughing and crying at the same time. She felt a mix of embarrassment and relief. Long Chun, if you're a man, you'll finish our battle now. A furious roar shattered the moment. The long-forgotten Yen Beifei soared into the sky, his face twisted with rage, destroying the tranquility they had just found. Yen Beifei's roar shook the land as his hair flew wildly in disarray, his powerful aura raging uncontrollably. Watching Long Chun and Tang Wanner flirt so shamelessly drove him mad. "You fought him?" asked Tang Wanner in surprise. The moment she received word that Long Chun had arrived, she rushed over at maximum speed. Although she had heard Yen Beifei's words from a distance, she had no idea what had happened beforehand. "We fought, but I can't beat him. I'm injured," Long Chun said, pretending to be sad. "You're injured? Where?" Tang Wanner's outrage flared instantly. "My hand's wounded." He smashed his face into my palm, "and now my hand hurts. Look, my palm is all red because of him." "Aya." Long Chun hadn't even finished before Tang Wanner viciously pinched the soft flesh of his waist. Tang Wanner had been genuinely worried, thinking that Long Chun might be injured. After all, Long Chen's realm was that of a sage king, while Yen Beifei was a heaven saint and Qian Renshua's retainer. She knew Yen Beifei was second only to Qian Renshua in power. However, her concern quickly turned into frustration as she realized that Long Chun hadn't changed a bit. And so, he deserved the usual punishment. "You!" Yen Beifei was trembling with fury. Losing face in front of Long Chun was already humiliating enough, but now he had become a target of ridicule. His anger surged, pushing him toward the brink of explosion. "If I hadn't been concerned about damaging the Wind God's stone just now, I wouldn't have held back. Come out and fight me fairly. Let's settle this once and for all." Yen Beifei roared. "I didn't come here to fight. I came to find my wife. Now that I've found her, why would I fight you?" Long Chun replied, shaking his head as if doubting Yen Beifei's sanity. Do you have no shame? Are you really going to hide behind a woman for your entire life?" Yen Beifei bellowed. Long Chun chuckled and stood behind Tang Wanner, saying, "You don't understand. My constitution is very weak. A prophet once told me I have soft bones and can only eat soft rice. Besides, what's wrong with hiding behind a woman? Aren't you also depending on Qian Renshua?" "You!" Yen Beifei was left speechless. As Qian Renshua's retainer, it was true that much of his success was due to her influence. "You what? We are the same, so why bother being the pot calling the kettle black? If you really have guts, then come. You can challenge my wife. We'll see if my wife can't knock you down a peg," said Long Chun with a wicked chuckle. "Yen Beifei, I know you're still bitter that I defeated Qian Renshua. Fine, if you can last 10 moves against me, I'll concede the title of Divine Daughter to her," Tang Wanner declared. With Long Chun back by her side, Tang Wanner's confidence soared. She knew Long Chen's cultivation base was only that of a sage king, but his presence made her feel invincible. She wasn't about to back down now. "Really?" Yen Beifei was enticed. "Of course. But if you lose, can you make Qian Renshua renounce her claim to the title of Divine Daughter and promise never to trouble me again?" Tang Wanner challenged. That?" Yen Beifei stammered, unsure of how to respond. At that moment, a cold and clear voice cut through the air. "Tang Wanner, do you think a bitch like you can bully my retainer?" As the crowd parted, a tall and slender woman with an air of icy arrogance strode forward, flanked by her followers. She exuded a chilling aura, and the space around her seemed to quiver as she walked, leaving a divine radiance trailing behind her like a rainbow. When Long Chun saw her, his heart shook. This woman was incredibly powerful, her presence reminding him of Long Tianrui. "That's Qian Renshua," Tang Wanner transmitted to Long Chun, her voice tinged with disdain. "She's a sore loser and a vicious woman. She's secretly targeted my subordinates, even causing some deaths. The only reason I haven't fought her is because I'm afraid I'd get too angry and kill her, and my master forbade me from doing that." Killing intent flickered in Tang Wanner's eyes as she shared this information with Long Chun. Actually, the moment Long Chun saw Qian Renshua, He could already tell she was an arrogant woman, willing to use any means to achieve her goals. Her sharp jaw, thin lips, and the black mole at the corner of her mouth all reflected her ruthless character. Right at the start, she had insulted Tang Wan-er, causing Tang Wan-er's temper to flare. Long Chen knew her woman wasn't skilled in verbal sparring. "Don't say anything. Let your husband deal with her," Long Chen said with a wave of his sleeve as he stepped forward. Seeing Long Chen's exaggerated posture, Tang Wan-er couldn't help but laugh. Just the sight of Qian Renxue made Tang Wan-er want to beat her up. While the disdain and contempt in Qian Renxue's demeanor were clear, Tang Wan-er knew she had to be careful. After all, as outsiders, they lived here on someone else's goodwill, and her master's position was not entirely stable. She couldn't afford to stir up trouble. However, with Long Chen standing in front of her, Tang Wan-er was suddenly reminded of their days on the Martial Heaven continent. A warm feeling filled her heart. There wasn't a woman alive who didn't appreciate the sensation of being protected by someone they loved. Despite Long Chen's lower cultivation base, he was always her mental pillar. As long as he was present, Tang Wan-er feared nothing. His presence alone gave her unwavering confidence. Suddenly, Long Chen asked, "Can I curse her?" "Of course," Tang Wan-er responded with a hint of excitement. "Her mouth is filthy. She often says she's a bitch." Tang Wan-er bit her lip, clearly unable to repeat the word Qian Renxue had used. Seeing this, Long Chen immediately understood the kind of insults Qian Renxue had thrown at her. At that moment, Qian Renxue approached them, her gaze filled with disdain as she looked down on them. Clearing his throat, Long Chen started. "May I ask who this shovel-faced beanpole with a flat back and flatter front is? Should you be spouting crap from your grand mouth? If you're willing to help this humble self comprehend this, I would be very grateful." Qian Renxue's face darkened, and killing intent flashed in her eyes. Indeed, this woman wasn't blessed with good looks. Her long face and flat chest were taboo subjects. Hence, no one had ever dared to speak about these flaws, let alone in public. For Long Chen to ruthlessly mock her in front of everyone left the entire crowd silent, disciples gasping in shock but not daring to utter a word. Tang Wan-er, on the other hand, was practically cheering on the inside, resisting the urge to clap for Long Chen. This woman had insulted her time and again, both openly and in secret. Since Tang Wan-er wasn't skilled in verbal comebacks, Qian Renxue's words had always angered her. Seeing Long Chen deliver such a sharp blow that made Qian Renxue's face twist with rage filled her with immense satisfaction. "How do you want to die?" Qian Renxue asked icily, her gaze locking onto Long Chen as her killing intent engulfed him. "Are you mad? This is all it takes to anger you? Come on, just moments ago when you insulted my wife, she didn't react this way. How did you get such a thick skin? You're allowed to insult others, but no one can insult you in return? Did you think the entire Wind God Sea Pavilion belonged to you?" Long Chen taunted, staring disdainfully at Qian Renxue, who glared back with murderous intent. Long Chen had encountered women like Qian Renxue before. She thrived on attention, loved being admired by the masses, and craved to be the brightest star while others faded into the background. Her vanity was unmatched. Now Tang Wan-er had stolen her spotlight. But rather than working to improve herself, Qian Renxue resorted to petty, underhanded schemes to attack Tang Wan-er, revealing her inability to reclaim her position as a divine daughter through actual talent. Previously, Long Chen hadn't understood why Tang Wan-er avoided her challenge, but now it was clear. Qian Renxue knew she couldn't win. Thus, she must have prepared some sinister tricks to ensure that Tang Wan-er would be at a disadvantage if they fought. Seeing Qian Renxue in person, Long Chen could easily guess her intentions. He wasn't one to hold back when dealing with malicious individuals like her. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. "The Wind God Sea Pavilion is my home, and it's not for locusts like you," sneered Qian Renxue. Long Chen shot back. "Locusts? You really have a foul mouth. The relationship between a sect and its disciples is like fish and water. They depend on each other. The sect raises disciples, and disciples defend the sect and carry on its legacy. This mutual give and take is what makes a sect strong. Do you think the sect spends so much time and resources raising countless disciples just for fun? If the sect could see the future, wouldn't it only cultivate divine sons and daughters? Why bother recruiting so many inner and outer disciples? Is the sect's wisdom something a shrieking shrew like you could possibly understand? And you, acting like you are the sect master, is beyond laughable. What a joke! Are you seriously suggesting that the Wind God Sea Pavilion is banking on these lowly outer disciples becoming the pillars of the sect? Qian Rinxue snorted in disdain. Long Chan said coldly, "Is there something wrong with your head? Did you not understand a word I said? Or do you have donkey hair stuffed in your ears? I already explained, no one knows the future. Who's to say an outer disciple with average talent today won't become a peak genius tomorrow? The path of cultivation is filled with unimaginable twists and turns. Some people soar right at the beginning, and the others need to ripen first. Talent, aptitude, hard work, luck, all are crucial factors. Some people bloom early, like flowers that quickly bear fruit, while others are like saplings, slow to grow but capable of becoming towering trees if given time. Why does the Wind God Sea Pavilion raise so many disciples? It's because any one of them might become the future pillar of the sect. Perhaps one day an outer disciple will suddenly soar and eclipse the divine sons and daughters. A person shouldn't be too prideful, or those you once bullied would make you kneel and beg for mercy one day." His words ignited the spirits of the outer disciples gathered there. There were already 1 million disciples present, with over 80% of them being outer disciples. Most of them felt insignificant and weak. But no matter how weak and inferior they were, every one of them had a dream of becoming a powerful expert. They knew that it was something that they might never be able to achieve in this lifetime. But Long Chen's words set their passions ablaze. Whether native or foreign, as outer disciples, they had always been seen as nothing more than burdens by the inner sect's experts. Yet with just a single speech, Long Chen inspired them. The very thought that one of them, an outer disciple, could one day rise and surpass the divine sons and daughters sent chills through their bodies. For some reason, even though Long Chen was only a sage king, he radiated an aura that commanded trust. His presence and words stirred excitement among the outer disciples. If not for their fear of Qian Renxue, they would have likely burst into applause. For the first time in their lives, someone had spoken up for them, voicing their struggles and aspirations. Both native and foreign outer disciples were deeply moved, and the way they looked at Long Chen changed completely. How absurd! Outer disciples surpassing divine sons and daughters? Even the heavens are collapsing from laughter. Qian Renxue scoffed. A rog in a well can't comprehend the ocean, and a summer insect can't grasp the winter's ice. You may question me, but don't question the wisdom of the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Are you implying that the Pavilion Master is raising these disciples for no reason? Do you think your judgment surpasses the Pavilion Master's? Retorted Long Chen. Shut up. The Pavilion Master is not someone a foreign barbarian like you can mention, raged Qian Rinxue. Did you just eat shit? Is that why your mouth reeks? You call people barbarians and locusts without a second thought. Who raised you? It's a good thing you're not a divine daughter, or I'd definitely make Wanner give up her title. Being ranked the same as someone like you would be too embarrassing. Well, I can't be bothered to reason with a shrew. Did you come here as a show of might? Sorry, but you failed. As for your subordinate, I can generously forgive him for smashing his face into my hand. My Wanner also won't lower herself to quibble with a crap-spouting fool. Now, get lost. Long Chen waved his hand dismissively, as if shooing away a housefly. Without giving Qian Rinxue a chance to respond, Long Chen turned to walk back to Tang Wanner. But just then, Tang Wanner's eyes widened. Qian Rinxue's hand was reaching for Long Chen's throat like a claw. Qian Rinxue had been infuriated for a while, but she had kept her rage in check. However, Long Chen's dismissive words and arrogant backturn had finally pushed her over the edge. She lunged to crush him, her claw reaching for his neck. Tang Wanner moved forward in a fury, but before she could act, Long Chen's hand smacked Qian Rinxue's face. A sharp, Crisp sound echoed through the crowd as Chen Rinxue was sent flying by a slap to the face. When she regained her balance, a vivid handprint was imprinted on her cheek, drawing gasps of shock from the onlookers. "It's my first time slapping such a large face," Long Chun remarked calmly, glancing back at the enraged Chen Rinxue. "I'll kill you!" the shrew screamed, her aura erupting in fury. Violent chi and astral winds surged wildly, tearing through the air, forcing countless experts to stumble back under the sheer force. "Wife, save me!" Long Chun cried out dramatically, darting behind Tang Wan'er in a flash, pretending to be terrified. "Chen Rinxue, I've had enough of you. If you really want to fight, let's do it on the life and death stage. Let the heavens decide our fates, and we'll have no further ties." Tang Wan'er shouted, raising her hand to shield Long Chun as she glared at Chen Rinxue. Tang Wan'er had been holding back for a long time, but now that Long Chun was here, her courage surged. She was no longer afraid. She had already decided, today, she would settle things once and for all. Her killing intent burst without bounds. Most sects had a life and death stage for resolving disputes that could no longer be mediated. With the approval of the higher-ups, this stage allowed combatants to settle their grudges in the simplest, most primal way possible. The victor became a king, while the loser became a ghost. "All right, as you wish. Let's do it right now," Chen Rinxue sneered, taking out a tablet with divine runes on it. This was the Divine Daughter's status plate, and Chen Rinxue flung it into the air. Tang Wan'er responded in kind, throwing an identical tablet into the sky. When the two tablets collided, the space seemed to warp as a martial stage appeared overhead. "Absolutely not," a furious voice suddenly echoed, and the image of the stage vanished. The tablets shot back to their owners, who hastily caught them. "Assistant Pavilion Master, Tang Wan'er has gone too far. I must." "Rejected. The life and death challenge is denied. Stop causing problems. Whatever grievances you have, settle them on the divine consecration stage." The voice cut Chen Rinxue off with a decisive snort, its tone leaving no room for argument. The voice was piercing, and the overwhelming divine pressure told Long Chun that it belonged to a supreme expert. "Tang Wan'er, this isn't over," Chen Rinxue snarled. "Not only will I take back everything you've stolen from me, but on the divine consecration stage, I might just take your slut life." Tang Wan'er was about to retort when Long Chun stuck his head out from behind her and smirked. "Doesn't your face hurt from saying such big words?" "You!" Chen Rinxue almost exploded from rage. The previous slap was the greatest humiliation of her life, and Long Chen's words accurately struck her right where it hurt. Tang Wan'er, who had been boiling with anger herself, burst into laughter at Chen Rinxue's rage. When it came to pushing people's buttons, Long Chun was unbeatable. "Just you wait," Chen Rinxue growled through gritted teeth before vanishing. As soon as she was gone, Yen Beifei stepped forward, sneering. "Long Chun, is that your name? Don't think you can hide forever. When I get my chance, I'll make your life worse then." Before this idiot could finish, half of his face exploded into a mist of blood that filled the air. He was slapped flying into the distance, transforming into a dark spot in the sky before disappearing from sight. The crowd was stunned. Long Chun had been standing behind Tang Wan'er, and no one had seen how he managed to land that slap. It was faster than anything they could comprehend, an ethereal, almost otherworldly strike that sent shivers down their spines. Even Tang Wan'er hadn't seen how he moved. His speed was unfathomable. Long Chun had known Yen Beifei would speak up to provoke him, and after enduring Chen Rinxue's threats, he had been quietly gathering energy, barely holding back his frustration. When Yen Beifei opened his mouth, Long Chun couldn't restrain himself any longer, releasing all that pent-up power in a single blow. As a result, the slap was truly solid, sending Yen Beifei flying to unknown lands. Long Chun figured Yen Beifei would be unconscious for at least 2 days after it. "That move of yours really has reached a divine level," remarked Tang Wan'er, clearly impressed. Seeing the two people she loathed most humiliated so thoroughly lifted a great weight off her heart. Many thanks for your praise, great divine daughter. When this lowly Long Chun grows up, I hope to be able to wipe away all blockades in your way so that you may rise to the peak of godhood. Long Chun replied with mock solemnity, cupping his fists to Tang Wanner. Tang Wanner's laughter rang out again. Sometimes, Long Chen's cheeky behavior annoyed her, but other times, she found it irresistibly charming. Let's go. I want you to see my master, said Tang Wanner, wrapping an arm around Long Chen's arm and smiling. Long Chun nodded and followed Tang Wanner deeper into the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Tang Wanner practically skipped with excitement, her childlike glee unmistakable. The two of them laughed and joked as they walked, with Tang Wanner occasionally bending over in laughter. She simply forgot all about her status as a divine daughter. Since there were too many people around, Long Chun refrained from discussing anything too serious and instead asked her about the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Tang Wanner explained that the Wind God Sea Pavilion consisted of over 3.600 islands, with Wind God Island at the center. The surrounding islands were interconnected by a massive formation. It was said that when this grand formation was activated, it could twist space-time and cause a natural reaction from heaven and earth, altering the very laws of the world. This was the Wind God Sea Pavilion's strongest formation. As a result, not many forces dared to attack the Wind God Sea Pavilion in recent history. Throughout the entire Heaven Essence world, the Wind God Sea Pavilion could be considered a first-tier overlord. The 16 closest islands belonged to the divine sons and daughters, a symbol of their exalted status. Furthermore, every divine daughter and divine son could have 8 retainers and 3.600 guards. All of them received special treatment, receiving stipends from the Wind God Sea Pavilion. As the island master, Tang Wanner was also allocated a large amount of resources every month to cultivate even more experts. Before coming here, Tang Wanner had grown under the wing of her master, never having to shoulder such responsibilities. But now, she carried the weight of leadership, fighting not just for herself but for her old sex brothers and sisters. Despite the burden, she endured it for their sake. However, with Long Chun by her side now, the heavy burden seemed to melt away. In her eyes, Long Chun was the smartest person in the world. There was no problem he could not resolve. After passing through several mountains, they arrived at a gate where Tang Wanner's followers had to remain behind. Beyond it lay a vast plaza and a cluster of buildings, marking the domain of the inner sect disciples. Proceeding further, they encountered another gate, where even the inner disciples had to stop. Only Tang Wanner and her 8 divine retainers were permitted to pass through. Beyond the second gate, the surroundings grew increasingly solemn and dignified. They then got into another expansive plaza, where the 8 retainers halted, leaving only Tang Wanner and Long Chun to continue forward. The palace was vast and dimly lit, with a single beam of light streaming from the ceiling, illuminating the center of the hall. Seated calmly on a bamboo mat was a woman, Tang Wanner's master, Feng Xinyue. When Long Chun saw Feng Xinyue, his heart started to pound out of control. Slowly, Feng Xinyue opened her eyes. Feng Xinyue remained as peerlessly beautiful as ever, her face untouched by the passage of time. Despite her many years, she looked no older than 30. Her golden robes lent her an air of nobility and majesty, like a wise empress. She looked both graceful and approachable. Even someone like Long Chun couldn't help but feel naturally inferior in her presence. She exuded a certain grandness that others could only look up to. Feng Xinyue's grandeur came from the depths of her soul, not like the fake one put on by the likes of Qian Rinxue. Feng Xinyue's grace came from within, as naturally as if she stood in the heavens, while others remained grounded. What shocked Long Chun most was his inability to sense any aura fluctuations from her. Even the formidable silver hair void crusher was someone whose energy he could detect, but Feng Xinyue's presence was utterly elusive. Is she even stronger than the silver hair void crusher? Wondered Long Chun. Long Chun, shouldn't you greet my master? Tang Wanner's voice snapped him out of his daze. She scolded him gently, noticing his absent-minded staring without a greeting. Realizing his rudeness, Long Chun was then conflicted. Feng Xinyue was Tang Wan'er's master, so by protocol, he should address her as his own master too. But Long Chun had never kowtowed to anyone except his parents, and he wasn't about to start now. His knees refused to bend. "It's fine. Cultivators need not worry about such formalities," said Feng Xinyue, her tone gentle yet commanding. "Long Chun is the dean of the High Firmament Academy. He is qualified to stand as my equal. Senior lifts me up too high." Junior Long Chun greets Senior, Long Chun replied, a bit embarrassed by that. Though he wouldn't kneel, he bowed respectfully as a junior would to a senior. "Wan'er, leave us for a moment. I have some words for Long Chun," Feng Xinyue instructed. Tang Wan'er, though puzzled, obediently left as directed. "You crossed the endless desolation, correct?" asked Feng Xinyue. "Yes." "You fought with someone from Brahma's line, right? Why do I sense Lord Brahma's energy on you?" Feng Xinyue eyed Long Chun closed. She was a bit surprised. Long Chun was taken aback. It had been some time since his battle with the Silver Hair Void Crusher, and his wounds had long healed. How could Lord Brahma's power still be on him? "My brothers and I encountered one of Lord Brahma's 8 great divine commanders on the way. I almost lost my life to him," Long Chun explained. "A real divine commander or one of their descendants?" Feng Xinyue inquired further. Long Chun gave a simple explanation of how they had encountered the Silver Hair Void Crusher. In truth, his memories were blurry due to his heart devil taking control of his body. He only saw himself in white robes, as well as his heart devil's bone-chilling aura. But that was all. The Silver Hair Void Crusher? He is skilled, but his character is flawed, Feng Xinyue said with a knowing nod. He's still celebrating his recent promotion, but his intelligence is lacking. No wonder you managed to escape from his hands. From Feng Xinyue's tone, she seemed to have a great understanding of the Silver Hair Void Crusher. She continued, "He is the first addition to the 8 divine commanders. His promotion means that one of the original commanders has died." Amazed by her knowledge, Long Chun replied, "Yes, that's exactly what he said. One of them participated in the battle against the 9-star master and was heavily wounded. Even after spending so many years recovering, he still died." Feng Xinyue remarked, "In truth, he didn't have to die. If Lord Brahma had been willing to split a portion of his energy, the commander could have been saved, though he would have been crippled. However, Lord Brahma is also in recovery and wouldn't sacrifice his own energy for a cripple. It's also why Lord Brahma hasn't shown much favor toward the Silver Hair Void Crusher. If he had, the Crusher would have become a central figure among the 8 commanders long ago." "Why doesn't Lord Brahma favor him?" Long Chun asked. "It is his character," Feng Xinyue explained. "Mountains and rivers change, but people don't. Even the strongest god cannot change a person's nature. The Silver Hair Void Crusher's character is flawed, so he's always been overlooked. He was only promoted because of the death of the previous commander. His power far exceeded yours, but his arrogance and underestimation of you allowed you to escape. His own character was his downfall, and that's exactly why Lord Brahma doesn't value him." "Well, I guess it's a good thing it was him and not another commander," Long Chun said with a bitter smile. "If it had been one of the others, I wouldn't have survived." Feng Xinyue replied, "He's eager to prove himself after his promotion. By all rights, someone of his rank shouldn't be dealing with a 9-star heir. You were unlucky to encounter him. But at the same time, he was just as unlucky to meet you. He thought that he could easily capture you, only to be caught off guard again and again. He did every stupid thing possible, and that's why you managed to escape." Feng Xinyue smiled at the end, knowing clearly how vast the power gap between Long Chun and the Silver Hair Void Crusher was. Feng Xinyue then reassured Long Chun, "Now that you're here, you don't need to worry about him. He wouldn't dare to act impudently in the Wind God Sea Pavilion. Other than that, he values his face too much to openly attack you, but he may try something in the shadows. Well, as long as you stay here, you'll be safe. By the way, did Bai Letian give you any instructions before you came?" "No," Long Chun answered, confused. He tried to recall any specific instructions but came up blank. Feng Xinyue pondered for a moment before nodding. Since he didn't say anything, staying here to focus on cultivating is a wise choice. Helping Wan with her problem shouldn't be an issue for you, right? Feng Xinyue pondered for a moment before nodding. Since he didn't say anything, staying here to focus on cultivating is a wise choice. Helping Wan with her problem shouldn't be an issue for you, right? Of course not, Long Chun quickly replied. Good. Then go take the entry exam, Feng Xinyue said, catching him off guard. Eh? Long Chen's jaw dropped. What? Are you unwilling to let go of your status as a dean? Do you know how many years Wan has shed tears for you? Feng Xinyue's expression darkened. No, not at all, Long Chen hastily assured her. For Wan, I'd give up my life, let alone a title. I'll listen to you. Satisfied with his response, Feng Xinyue nodded. Go. You won't be treated unfairly. When Long Chun came out, Tang Wan'er was already anxious from waiting. To her, even a short time apart from Long Chun seemed like days. What did my master say? Asked Tang Wan'er, grabbing Long Chen's arm. Long Chun smiled wryly and replied, She told me I need to be your attendant and take the entry exam. Hee. Don't worry. Being my attendant is a good thing. Tang Wan'er laughed, her eyes sparkling as she excitedly pulled Long Chun along. The Wind God Sea Pavilion recruited new disciples all year round. As long as someone could pass the trial and was under 100 years old, they could become a disciple. Moreover, the recruitment was not restricted by cultivation base. Even if someone was in the divine flame realm, the moment they passed the trial, they would be accepted. The Wind God Sea Pavilion had specialized tutors and magical arts tailored to each level of cultivation, confirming Long Chen's observation that it left a path for the slow growers. The trial took place on an outer island, with a steady stream of people coming and going. The line wasn't particularly long, but it wasn't short either. After changing her clothes, Tang Wan'er lined up with Long Chun, holding his arm. She was in no hurry, feeling content as long as she was with him. To her, any place they went together became beautiful. Even waiting in line felt like a pleasant experience. When Long Chen's turn came, Tang Wan'er released his arm and stepped aside. The Wind God Sea Pavilion had strict rules about the trials. Cheating or helping others was forbidden. Anyone who dared to try such a thing would be harshly punished. As a divine daughter, Tang Wan'er had to respect the rules. Long Chen first received a form. With no one guiding him, he randomly filled it out and handed it over to the examiner. A stiff-faced elder. He was the very image of someone impeccably meticulous, as if he would never make an exception for others. He scanned Long Chen's form briefly. Long Chun, Sage King Cultivation Base. Strengths: slapping people in the face. Interests: making my wives happy. What kind of juvenile wrote this? The examiner was livid. The strengths section was meant to highlight a person's elemental affinities like wood, water, fire, wind, lightning, etc. While most of the Wind God Sea Pavilion's disciples had a wind attribute, they still recruited those with other specialties. As for interests, applicants usually listed skills like refining pills, forging, talisman crafting, beast taming, or spirit taming. Long Chen's answers, however, were utterly ridiculous. But those truly are my strengths and interests. Long Chun shrugged helplessly. The strict elder glared at Long Chun, his sharp gaze and obscure aura causing Long Chun to tense up. Only now did Long Chun realize that the elder was actually a six-vein human emperor. From the elder's expression, Long Chun could tell that he was not ordinary. He actually managed to sense Long Chen's power. The elder shifted his gaze between Long Chun and Tang Wan'er in the distance, and a flash of understanding crossed his face. His anger subsided. All right, since you won't take this seriously, I'll fill it out for you. What abilities do you specialize in? Asked the elder. My physical body, I suppose, Long Chun replied. Other than fighting, do you have any other skills? Does refining pills count? Asked Long Chun. You know alchemy? The elder was surprised. A bit. Long Chun nodded. The elder jotted something on the form, using symbols Long Chun didn't recognize. Handing it to a nearby disciple, he instructed Long Chun, "Follow him." Long Chun thanked the elder and walked off with the disciple. Just a short distance away, they arrived at the power testing area. This test was meaningless to Long Chun. He directly picked up the testing stone, boggling the disciple. Although this stone was backed by a formation and heavier than a mountain, Long Chun still lifted it easily. Long Chun knew that if he wanted to survive here, he couldn't be too low-key. Despite the heaviest stone being used, it couldn't test Long Chun's full strength. Finally, the disciple had no choice but to bring out an ancient testing stone that had been gathering dust for years. Upon seeing it, Long Chun hesitated. "Are you telling me to punch it with my full strength?" Boom! The testing stone shattered to pieces under Long Chun's punch, leaving the disciple utterly dumbfounded. Long Chun then saw the disciple scribble "power" unknown on the evaluation sheet with a shaking hand. Long Chun easily passed the trial. The Wind God Sea Pavilion rarely had physical-type experts, and since Long Chun's performance was so exceptional, he was immediately assigned as an outer disciple. "Hee, I knew this would be easy for you," Tang Wanner laughed, joining him. She guided him to receive his status plate, disciple robes, and the stipend for an outer disciple. This stipend included a set of blue robes, a sword, and a medicinal pill case. When Long Chun opened the case, he couldn't help being dumbfounded. "What the hell is this? Are we supposed to eat this?" "What did you say?" exclaimed the elder who had just handed Long Chun his stipend. "Shoo! Medicinal pills are exceptionally precious in the Heaven Essence world. If these pills were offered outside, people would kill for them until rivers of blood flowed," whispered Tang Wanner. "A high-grade pill with no rings is considered precious?" Long Chun asked, unable to believe his ears. "I'll explain later." Tang Wanner hastily dragged him away, afraid his next words might offend the elder even more. Once outside, Tang Wanner explained that medicinal pills were super rare here. Only a few people could refine them, and the supply had always been monopolized by the Brahma Pill Valley. Their medicinal pills were only sold to followers of Lord Brahma. As a result, major factions had to train their own alchemists, but their alchemical skills couldn't compare to the Brahma Pill Valleys, so the pills they produced were often ordinary high-grade pills. High-grade pills with rings were reserved for inner disciples and were in limited supply. Normally, the disciples had to work hard to get more. "There's a Brahma Pill Valley here as well?" Long Chun asked, his heart trembling. If there really was a Brahma Pill Valley here, the silver-hair Void Crusher would definitely pursue him to the Heaven Essence world. "Of course there is. The Brahma Pill Valley is immensely powerful, and no one dares provoke them. The Wind God Sea Pavilion stays out of their business," Tang Wanner confirmed. As they walked arm in arm, someone suddenly blocked their path. A sharp, thin voice sneered. "So this is Long Chun? Hearing about you and seeing you in person are two different things. I'm disappointed." 9 people stood in their way, led by a pale, feminine man whose gaze felt as disgusting as a serpent's. Long Chun recognized his robes. He was a divine son. Judging by Tang Wanner's furious expression, Long Chun knew that he was no good egg. "Wanner, who is this crossdresser?" asked Long Chun. Hearing this, the other 8 people instantly drew their weapons. Long Chun had a knack for verbally slapping people, and this time was no different. The man before him reminded him of Marquis Ing from the Phoenix Cry Empire. Someone like him was always full of tricks. He clearly knew of Long Chun's relationship with Tang Wanner and was deliberately trying to stir up trouble. But since he wanted to play, Long Chun naturally wouldn't stand on courtesy. The moment Long Chun's jab landed, that person's smile vanished, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Being called Wanner by this person gave Tang Wanner goosebumps. She immediately said, "This is Yu Wanheng, the 7th of the 8 divine sons. His strength is average, but his mouth is vile." Yu Wanheng had clashed against Tang Wanner before. After losing to her, he never got over it, so he constantly sought a chance to reclaim his dignity. Hearing the constant taunts, the old Tang Wan'er would have immediately challenged him to a one-on-one duel. But things had changed. Now that she was a divine daughter with countless people relying on her, her actions carried far more weight. His defeat would also impact the future of many others. Under such immense pressure, she could no longer act on impulse. Responsibility gradually dulled the edge of her unrestrained courage. Yu Wenheng sneered, "Tang Wan'er, don't get too arrogant. Soon, the divine ranking competition will come, and Chen Renxue will put you in your place. You won't even be a divine daughter then." Long Chen scoffed. "And what does that have to do with you? It's none of your business. A good dog doesn't block the way. Now move. We don't have time for a non-man non-woman." Long Chen pulled Tang Wan'er toward Yu Wenheng without hesitation. Though Long Chen could sense Yu Wenheng's immense power and that of his retainers, he didn't care. He knew they wouldn't dare start a fight here. So he confidently walked forward, ready to slap anyone out of his way. At this distance, there was no way they could dodge. The 8 divine retainers were furious, but Yu Wenheng signaled them to step back. He made way for Long Chen, smirking. "Keep being arrogant. The more you act like this, the more fun it'll be. We have plenty of time." Long Chen was disappointed that Yu Wenheng didn't try to stop him. "Coward," Long Chen muttered under his breath. As they walked past, Long Chen's mood soured. So Tang Wan'er asked, "Why aren't you happy? Look, he looks like he's going to die from rage." "I wanted to measure his face with my hand and enjoy his expression," Long Chen replied, his voice tinged with regret. Tang Wan'er laughed. "You fool. This isn't the place to fight. Not even my master could protect you here." Rubbing her face gently, Long Chen said, "You've become more cautious lately, and you're losing the boldness I love. It's not good. I prefer the free and unrestrained Tang Wan'er. You had to be careful when I wasn't here, but now that I stand next to you, there's nothing to fear. Even if you cause a disaster, I'll shoulder it for you." Tang Wan'er's eyes reddened. Long Chen truly understood her. In the past, she had been carefree and immature. She had never undergone the same difficulties as Long Chen. Sometimes, she even caused trouble for Long Chen and took her temper out on him. After arriving at the Wind God Sea Pavilion and becoming a pillar for so many people, she finally bore the weight of responsibility. The pressure was suffocating, and there were times she cried when she was alone. Only now did she fully grasp how heavy the burden on Long Chen's shoulders had always been. He had led the Dragonblood Legion through countless life and death battles, breaking through every obstacle in their way. In hindsight, she regretted her past immaturity and willfulness. Now, hearing Long Chen's words, she felt warmth in her heart, but also deep heartache for him. Long Chen was only one person, yet he carried so much without complaint, always showing a sunny side to shield others from worry. "Fool, won't you be tired like that?" Tang Wan'er asked, her eyes misty. "This is my honor and my duty. How could I be tired? Wan'er, I love you. What I love is the real you. I want to cherish and protect you, to let you be free," Long Chen said with a smile. Tang Wan'er had always been like a child, and Long Chen cherished her innocence. If she became too mature, it would mean losing her childlike purity, which would be a disappointment. Deep inside, Long Chen wished he could create a world where his loved ones could be free. Then all his efforts would be worth it. Moved to both tears and laughter, Tang Wan'er took him to a pavilion. After a moment inside, she returned with a tablet and handed it to him. "What's this?" asked Long Chen. He, from now on you're one of my fighters," chuckled Tang Wan'er. Long Chen immediately understood. He was now essentially one of Tang Wan'er's divine retainers. He accepted the tablet with a serious expression, about to pledge his loyalty, but she quickly stopped him. "All right, don't do anything weird. Come on. Let's go back to our island." Tang Wan'er brought Long Chen out of Wind God Island toward an enormous floating island. Even before they reached it, Long Chen could feel a powerful sacred energy washing over him. The island was covered in swirling primal chaos chi, and the laws of heaven and earth were so strong they were visible to the naked eye. "No wonder Chen Renxue hates you. This level of treatment is outrageous," Long Chen said. astonished. As soon as Long Chun stepped foot onto the island, he felt his pores open as the spiritual chi of heaven and earth flooded into him. The island's natural energy was far superior to even the best spirit-gathering formations. Hidden Dragon Island. The three characters carved into a large boulder at the entrance stirred something in Long Chen's heart. When Tang Wanner saw Long Chen's reaction, a warm expression appeared in her eyes. Long Chun instantly grasped the meaning behind these three words. By claiming the position of Divine Daughter, Tang Wanner gained the right to name her island. Typically, a divine son or daughter would use their own name, but she chose something different. Those three words carried all her longing and emotions, and Long Chun couldn't help but be moved. Greetings, Divine Daughter. Just as Long Chun was staring at the three characters, Tang Wanner's 8 divine retainers, as well as 3,600 female disciples bowed toward her in unison. They were all lined up, awaiting her command. No need for such formalities, Tang Wanner smiled. Everyone, this is Long Chun, my future husband. Greetings, Long Chun, the women said, sneaking glances at him while bowing. They kept their heads low, seemingly too nervous to meet his eyes. Seeing this, Long Chun was a bit curious. Why were these women so shy? Were they too nervous? Long Chun returned the greeting, and they slowly rose, but they still avoided his gaze. Come, let's go to the Divine Daughter Hall. We'll have a reception for my man, Tang Wanner said with a smile, leading Long Chun inside. The island was vast, brimming with spiritual energy and strong natural laws. Birds sang, flowers bloomed, and rare beasts roamed freely. It was an enchanting place. Tang Wanner guided Long Chun, pointing out the beautiful sights as they walked. Behind them, the 8 retainers and disciples followed at a distance, heads still down. What's wrong with them? Long Chun whispered. Tang Wanner smiled mysteriously. Do you know why all my subordinates are women? Long Chun was baffled, but he quickly understood. Was she afraid of him getting jealous? I'm not so petty, Long Chun replied with a wry smile. That's part of it, Tang Wanner teased. My 8 retainers and 3,600 guards were personally chosen by me. They may not be the most powerful or talented, but their character is beyond reproach. And haven't you noticed that they're all quite beautiful? What the wait, you couldn't possibly mean. Long Chen's eyes widened. Tang Wanner playfully hit him. You scoundrel! What are you thinking? Seeing his astonished expression, Tang Wanner realized that he was having bad thoughts. He actually suspected that she started to like women. Then why? Asked Long Chen. Tang Wanner hesitated, her face turning red. Finally, she shyly muttered, Don't you like beautiful women? They're all my trusted sisters. I've already told them. My husband is also. Long Chen was startled. Tang Wanner blushed deeply, her voice quieter than a mosquito's. Tang Wanner bit her lip before continuing. Emperors have multiple wives and thousands of concubines. You're not inferior to them. But you have to promise me not to stray outside, or I definitely won't forgive you. Long Chun stared at Tang Wanner, unable to believe the words that were coming out of her mouth. Seeing her struggling to mask her sadness with a brave face, Long Chun felt a pang of guilt. Silly girl. Just like that, Tang Wanner's defenses broke down, and she sobbed. You're always outside, picking new flowers. I can't look after you. If that's the case, why not stick to this family? At the very least what? Long Chun asked with a playful tone, trying to lighten the mood. At the very least, they're all my people. I get the final say, she replied, a hint of stubbornness in her voice. Long Chun was speechless. She really was like a child in her thinking. How outrageous. Speak. How many more women have you fooled around with? Tang Wanner demanded, wiping away her tears. What does she mean, fooling around with? That sounds too indecent, all right? I am innocent. Knowing he had no way out, Long Chun obediently answered her. When she learned that Long Chun had only been with Bai Shirshir in the Immortal world, and that she had already met her, Tang Wanner's mood lightened, and she smiled. You do have a bit of a conscience, I suppose. With that matter settled, Long Chun suggested strengthening her forces to secure her position in the upcoming competitions. No way. These women stuck by me even in tough times. How could I abandon them now? Besides, you're here. You can help them grow stronger. The most important thing is that I trust them completely. I feel safe with them. You have your Dragonblood Legion, and I have my Hidden Dragon Legion. Tell me, would you ever abandon your brothers? She asked solemnly. Of course not, but it's not the same, Long Chun replied. What's not the same? Asked Tang Wan'er. Well, isn't it a bit awkward? Long Chun said, glancing at the women trailing behind them. Tang Wan'er chuckled impishly. What? Are you tempted? Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Long Chun was speechless. If your heart were clear of guilt, why would it be awkward? Tang Wan'er teased. Long Chun found himself at a loss for words. How had he been outwitted by a child? Hee. Consider this a little test for you. I want to see how sincere you are. Tang Wan'er giggled. Long Chun felt a chill. Before he could respond, Tang Wan'er reassured him, Don't worry, they're like sisters to me. We've been through life and death together. Now that I have trusted comrades, just treat them like your sisters. Isn't it only right to help your sisters? Hearing that, Long Chun nodded. It seemed Tang Wan'er had found her own sense of responsibility. She had grown. In the Divine Daughter Hall, Tang Wan'er didn't sit on the throne. Instead, she sat with everyone else. Roping in one of the women, she said, Xiao Yu, tell Long Chun about the situation of the Hidden Dragon Legion. Xiao Yu was the youngest of her retainers, but her aura fluctuations were the strongest of them. Contrary to the others, she kept her hair short and neat. While a bit shy at first, she quickly composed herself. She first cupped her fists to Tang Wan'er and then turned to Long Chun. Senior apprentice brother Long Chun, our Hidden Dragon Legion has 8 retainers and 3.600 warriors. We're split into 4 corps, with 900 members each. As Long Chun listened, he realized the Hidden Dragon Legion structure mirrored the Dragonblood Legion. The only difference was that while the Dragonblood Legion had 4 captains, Tang Wan'er's Legion had 8, with 2 captains in a corps. These 3,600 warriors were all Heaven Saints, an impressive force by any standard. However, according to Xiao Yu, their collective power lagged behind other groups. The divine rankings depended on overall strength, and as she spoke about them, the retainers' expressions darkened with embarrassment. They felt they were dragging Tang Wan'er down. If they lost this time, they wouldn't know what to do. Don't worry. With me here, you won't lose. Long Chun reassured them. Clang, clang, clang. Long Chun observed the Hidden Dragon Legion as they trained, their swords clashing rhythmically in the air. After all, he needed to get an overall understanding of their power. But the more he watched, the deeper his brow furrowed. Noticing his expression, the disciples started to feel uneasy. Even Tang Wan'er grew nervous. She could tell Long Chun wasn't satisfied with their performance. Long Chun, are their attacks not fierce enough? This is just training, so they're holding back. They're actually quite strong, Tang Wan'er said, trying to justify the situation. The disciples stopped their training and stood silently, awaiting Long Chun's assessment. Though they had never met him before, they had heard endless stories from Tang Wan'er about his power and achievements. Seeing his frown now only made them more anxious. Shaking his head, Long Chun said, Their power is acceptable, and they are also very talented. But there's something missing: mental strength. Perhaps it's because they've grown up in peaceful times or had powerful backers, but they lack the resilience that true experts need. If they face a stronger opponent, their willpower will crumble before the fight even begins. Even against enemies of the same level, their emotions could get the best of them. Fear, anger, hesitation, all of which would cause their power to plummet on the battlefield. His words hit them hard. In truth, they were aware of this weakness, but their cushioned lives had made them complacent. Back in their old sects, they cultivated only to show their own value, to gain honor for their families, and to gain face for their fathers and mothers. But after entering the Wind God Sea Pavilion, they fell from the heavens to hell. They had been stripped of their privileged positions, their comfortable lives turned upside down. Even if they realized they had wasted a great deal of their youth, it was too late to make up for it. You must have a way to fix it, right? You're the founder of the Dragonblood Legion. There's nothing you can't solve, Tang Wanner said, holding Long Chen's hand. Her voice carried both encouragement and a hint of desperation. She knew the situation of her legion well, but she couldn't bear to abandon them. After all, their fates were already intertwined. They would rise or fall together. There is a way, but I don't know if they can endure the pain. It's called the Divine Flame Soul Refinement, Long Chun replied, looking at everyone. We're willing. As long as it makes us stronger, we'll endure anything, one disciple declared resolutely. This soul refinement technique is something I developed for my brothers in the Dragonblood Legion. They are battle-hardened warriors, but even they find it excruciating. You need to be mentally prepared, Long Chun cautioned. Tang Wanner's expression changed slightly at his warning. Is it really that painful? Long Chun explained. After we ascended to the Immortal world and I joined the High Firmament Academy, I created this technique because I was concerned some brothers would struggle to adapt to this new world. So, the Divine Flame Soul Refinement is a technique to awaken dormant combat instincts. When the Dragonblood Legion reunited, some brothers had achieved such high positions that they hadn't needed to fight for years. As a result, their battle instincts started to wane. This technique reawakened their fighting spirit, but it was an incredibly painful process for them at the time. Sister Wanner, we're not afraid of pain. We're only afraid of being trampled on and treated as worthless for the rest of our lives. One disciple interjected. Wanner, is this place absolutely safe? Can someone spy on us here? Asked Long Chun. Tang Wanner reassured. It is safe. The barrier around this island was personally set up by my master. Other than her, no one can spy on us. Good. Everyone, spread out and keep a distance of 30 meters from one another, Long Chun instructed. Once everyone was in position, Long Chun formed hand seals. The space behind him twisted, and a massive, radiant tree appeared, casting the world in its divine glow. It was the 7 treasure-colored glass tree. It had grown to a huge size. When it was summoned, it filled the sky, its divine radiance turning this place into a wonderland. In an instant, all the disciples felt like they were in a land of myth and legend. How beautiful! Tang Wanner and the others murmured, captivated by its brilliance. The entire island became unspeakably beautiful because of its existence. Enjoy the view while it lasts, Long Chun said. In a moment things will change. My spiritual strength will merge with the 7 treasure-colored glass tree, pulling you into another world, one filled with bloodshed and fear. You'll face the things you dread most, and your lives will feel as fragile as flickering flames. This world is partially born from my own heart. You won't die, but the pain will be very real. Are you ready? Tang Wanner playfully saluted him and said, reporting to eldest brother Long Chun, we're ready. Long Chun smiled slightly. Then let us begin. As the 7 treasure-colored glass tree quivered, the beautiful landscape vanished, replaced by darkness. It was like they were drawn into an endless abyss, and countless monsters came pouring out of every direction. Suddenly, Tang Wanner felt a chilling wind behind her. Without hesitation, she spun and struck with her sword, knocking back her attacker. But when she saw who it was, her eyes widened in shock. Guiyen? She gasped. Tang Wanner recognized the attacker creepy Guiyen from the Martial Heaven continent. He grinned wickedly before dissipating into the darkness. Careful! Tang Wanner cried out as she noticed Xiaoyu, who was fighting crazily with everyone else, was ambushed by an assassin. A dagger appeared out of nowhere, slicing through Xiaoyu's neck. In an instant, her head flew from her body. Enraged, Tang Wanner directly attacked the assassin. Her strike revealed a chubby man who was smiling sinisterly. Enputa? The moment Tang Wanner saw Enputa, he vanished. In an instant, her instincts flared, and she unleashed thousands of sword images behind her. In the blink of an eye, her sword met Enputa's dagger over 100 times, and the sound of metal clashing filled the air. Boom! Tang Wanner's defenses were airtight, blocking Enputa's relentless assault. Wind's peak! Tang Wanner shouted, preparing a powerful attack to kill Enputa. But just then, a massive hand descended from the dark sky, instantly suppressing all her wind energy. She was horrified. It felt as if her cultivation base had been stripped away. An explosive sound rang out as Tang Wanner was simply crushed by this hand. Suddenly, the scene around her vanished. Tang Wanner opened her eyes to find herself back where she had been, with the other disciples standing in place. All of them were pale with fright though. They had been wiped out, and the sensation of their bodies being torn apart was painfully real. They were shaking at how lifelike it had been. Some still didn't understand what had happened. Xiao Yu had heard Tang Wanner's cry right before her death, but she only felt a sharp pain on her neck before everything descended into darkness. What just happened? Xiao Yu asked fearfully, looking at Tang Wanner in disbelief. Even someone as strong as Tang Wanner had fallen so quickly. Had she died too? Tang Wanner looked at Long Chun in shock, not understanding what had transpired. Long Chun said, "The 7 treasure-colored glass tree brought all of you into my inner world. The monsters and people you saw there were all killed by me. Their powerful resentment created karmic ties to me. The 7 treasure-colored glass tree is truly a treasure. It has always helped me comprehend the Tao and block these karmas. Then, one day I had an idea, what if I used those karmas to form a training ground? So, with the 7 treasure-colored glass tree's help, I constructed that world. In that world, you will encounter all the enemies I slew. Some of them were bodies of flesh and blood, while others were karmas left behind by heavenly tribulation. Wanner, the hand that killed you was called the Hand of the Heavens. With your strength, you could have survived it, but it suppressed all laws. It weakened your wind energy, causing fear to take root in your heart. That fear created an opening, and your will wasn't firm enough, so you were crushed." Long Chen's explanation stunned everyone further. All those terrifying creatures were his past foes? After hearing this, Tang Wanner realized why she had seen figures like Gue Yen and even Enputa. "Again!" she demanded, taking a deep breath as the other disciples steeled themselves, determination burning in their eyes. They were very brave. Despite the fear of death, they readied themselves for another attempt. The 7 treasure-colored glass tree quivered, and once again, they were transported to that hellish world. But once more, aside from Tang Wanner, everyone was killed instantly. In front of a tide of endless devil creatures and terrifying experts, they didn't have the slightest ability to resist. They were instantly slain without having any chance to fight back. This was a huge blow to them. In truth, anything capable of binding itself to Long Chun through karma had to be incredibly strong. These creatures' resentment at the time of their deaths had been so great that the heavenly Daos had captured their karmic ties. The weaker ones weren't even qualified to appear. All of these beings were fierce and ominous, far beyond the strength of ordinary foes. As a result, this group of women, who had never truly experienced the harsh trials of the battlefield, stood no chance against them. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Tang Wanner opened her eyes, sweating profusely. That person was Qin Keqing, a heavenly genius of the Zither sect. She was sinister and treacherous. She used the sound of the zither to disturb her opponent's heart and took advantage of that opening to launch a killing blow. Alone, she wouldn't have been a threat, but in a group battle, if you fail to balance your enemy's attack rhythms, you'll be at a serious disadvantage, said Long Chun. Again, Tang Wanner demanded, unwilling to admit defeat. Long Chun glanced around. Though looking pale, the others were equally determined to keep fighting. Despite their exhaustion, they were ready to have a go again. Nodding, Long Chun activated the 7 treasure-colored glass tree again, sending them into that illusory world. Once more, aside from Tang Wanner, everyone was instantly killed. This time, all of them grew anxious and antsy. They felt powerless, so powerless that there was no hope for them. Don't panic, Long Chun comforted. You must be prepared for death in this world. When you can face it without fear, you'll be able to make the right decisions in the heat of battle. That decision might not change the outcome, but the mindset is crucial. To be honest, I didn't expect you to have the courage to return after the first attempt. Under the 7 treasure-colored glass tree's power, everything feels so real, and you can't tell illusion from reality when you die. But you've challenged this illusory world 3 times already. That's very impressive. Long Chen's praise made them feel a bit better, so they gritted their teeth and prepared to challenge this illusory world again. Your minds are too strained. It's not the right state to continue, Long Chen said, waving his hand and sending golden pills to each of them. Take this soul-calming pill and rest. This is a top-grade golden pill? Startled cries came from those who recognized this pill. After all, only divine sons and daughters received such pills, and that was only once a year. For Long Chen to casually hand out over 3,000 left them awestruck. They hesitated to take the pills. At this time, Tang Wan'er came out of the illusory world. Looking at the pills floating in front of everyone, she smiled wearily and said, "Don't be shy. With him around, we'll never run out of pills. Shouldn't you thank Big Brother Long Chen?" "Thank you, Big Brother Long Chen," the disciples chorused. Although being called Big Brother by so many women at once gave Long Chen an awkward chill, he quickly had them consume the pills. As they recovered, Long Chen observed the wind fluctuations swirling around them, impressed by how rapidly they were improving. "It seems that I underestimated them," he mused. "Their potential is amazing. The Hidden Dragon Legion might truly become something special." An hour later, fully recovered, the disciples' eyes gleamed with newfound confidence and sharpness. "Continue," Long Chen commanded as the 7 treasure-colored glass tree quivered, once again drawing them into the illusory world. 10 days later, Long Chen finally ended their intense training. By now, the Hidden Dragon Legion had undergone a complete transformation. Their eyes were sharp and their auras resolute. They had taken their first steps onto the battlefield, and the bloodshed they endured had solidified their wills. At the very least, when faced with death, they wouldn't freeze. They would always have a chance to fight back. Long Chen's training method was astonishing, almost like a cheat code. It quickly raised their combat experience and tempered their minds. Within his 7 treasure space, a never-ending tide of ferocious demons, devils, and beasts, his most brutal and violent enemies, appeared. Only those with immense power could bind themselves to Long Chen through karmic resentment. The grudges they carried in death now targeted these disciples with merciless, almost suicidal attacks. Over these 10 days, these disciples had experienced death countless times. If their wills weren't strong enough, they would have long since gone mad. Thanks to the 7 treasure-colored glass tree's power, everything felt completely realistic. They were unable to tell that they were in an illusion, so they didn't think they would wake up after being killed. It was an incredibly cruel trial, but these seemingly weak women had endured it. Long Chen had adjusted the difficulty slightly, knowing they weren't dragon blood warriors. If he had subjected them to the same standards, it would have been too much. Even so, this trial was far beyond what an ordinary person could handle. Long Chen hadn't expected much from them, but they surprised him with their grit and determination. "Long Chen, why are we stopping?" asked Tang Wan'er, clearly eager for more. She had gained immense benefits from this training and could feel herself undergoing a metamorphosis. In truth, they were all mentally exhausted, even with the aid of medicinal pills. They had pushed themselves to the limit, but none of them wanted to waste this opportunity for growth. With every iteration, their souls grew stronger. Their minds and wills were transforming, and they started to find the confidence of true experts. Though they could only last a few breaths in the 7 treasure space before being killed, they now had hope. They also saw what it meant to be a true expert. As they grew in the 7 treasure space, they felt even greater admiration for Long Chen. He was practically a supreme god in their hearts. Every terrifying enemy they faced had been slain by Long Chen himself. Any doubts they had about his power were long gone. They realized that by following in his footsteps, they could grow stronger. As long as they persevered, they were confident they could emerge from this as changed people. Don't rush. Consume your medicinal pills. We'll take a one-day break, said Long Chun. Resting for a whole day? That's too long. The divine ranking competition is coming up, and we can't slack off, said one of the 8 retainers. Her name was Wan Kong, with the same Wan character as Tang Wan. Despite the gentle meaning of the character, both Tang Wan and Wan Kong were fiery existences, Wan Kong even more so than Tang Wan. I've planned everything. Rest for a day and return to your peak condition. Tomorrow you'll face a new challenge, replied Long Chun with a smile. What challenge? Asked Tang Wan. I'm ready to touch the next realm. Tomorrow, I'll undergo my human saint tribulation, Long Chun revealed. Human saint tribulation? Tang Wan immediately grasped his intentions, though the others were still confused. She simply told them to focus on recovering. The next day, Tang Wan used a transportation formation to bring them all to the Devil's Sea. Hidden Dragon Island had a powerful long-distance transportation formation, a privilege reserved for divine daughters, which saved them considerable travel time. They arrived in an area deep within the Devil's Sea, a place feared even by the Wind God Sea Pavilion disciples. The sea was filled with terrifying sea demons, and the location Long Chun chose was known for being particularly dangerous and secluded. Once there, Long Chun closed his eyes and spread his senses across the surroundings. Not detecting any threats, he started forming a series of hand seals. A low rumble came from his body, and his aura rapidly surged. The next moment, the sky darkened as tribulation clouds gathered, spreading far beyond the horizon. The sight of such an enormous tribulation stunned the Hidden Dragon Legion. They had never seen anything like it. This is just a minor tribulation. How can it be so massive? Someone exclaimed. The human saint tribulation was a minor one within the 6 stages of the eternal realm. For heavenly geniuses, it was usually just a formality, barely more than a routine test. But Long Chen's tribulation was on an unprecedented scale, filled with a destructive will that sent shivers down their spines and stirred their most primal fear. It's about what I expected. A tribulation on this level perfectly suits your power. Cultivation is, at its core, a defiance of the heavens. When the heavenly Das are unfair, you must learn to fight back and not submit to fate, said Long Chun. As he spoke, lightning beasts descended from the clouds, roaring fiercely. Sisters, attack! Tang Wan took the lead, swinging her sword through the tribulation lightning, cutting down the beasts. In response, the heavens raged, and a violent will crashed down. Under Tang Wan's lead, the Hidden Dragon Legion's female warriors all attacked, tearing apart the lightning beasts. Just as they were locked in battle, a sinister voice echoed from the sky. Hiding here to undergo tribulation in secret? You must be tired of living.